Visit iRacing.com.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but is it enough? It's a drag race to the finish. Culver goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iRacing.com/special-events.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV this beautiful Sunday afternoon or evening, depending on what side of the country you're on. It's time for the third round of V8SCOPS for 2025. We had Split 2 action last night, and it certainly turned things up. It really set us up for what's going to be a great night of racing here for the third round of one of the premier championships in the AusNZ sim racing community, and we are at Watkins Glen, the road course that drives like an oval when it comes to these cars. It's going to be a great night. And to bring it to you all live here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick, it's me, Reese Gardner, with David Haynes alongside me in the comms box. Jay Kennedy handling production behind the scenes and pressing all of the buttons to bring you these live pictures. Well, I tell you what, David, Watkins Glen, one of the marquee events of the V8SCOPS calendar for me. It's not always one of the highlight rounds of the year, but I think the racing is always the best.
If you love racing, you love this track. It's very high average speed. It's up near the Finger Lakes, which are not finger looking good, but they are lakes shaped like fingers up there in New York State. Yeah, it's down the bottom of that one. And here it is. Lots of camping, lots of car parking all around, and a lot of history at this joint. What it is massively high speeds up through turns 2, 3, and 4. For what they don't want you to call the bus stop, they want you to call it the inner loop.
Yes, indeed. Through the inner loop, they will go with curbs that are massive, and you can put your entire car over them, and plenty of very liberal track limits around here, particularly on the exit of turn 1 and exit turn 6 as well. Turn 5, the outer loop, you can run almost all the way through the runoff area on the way out. It means that average speeds are incredibly high at this circuit, and overtaking and slipstreaming is going to be one of the highlights of the night. Best overtaking opportunities likely in turn 1, coming into the inner loop, and potentially into turn 6 and 7, but it'll be a lot harder to pull off. So, yeah, if history is anything to go by, this round of V8SCOPS is going to be one for the books, and the first time that we are racing here in the Gen 3 machines. It's been quite a bit of getting used to these new cars, but tell you what, I'm looking forward to seeing how they race around here.
Yeah, absolutely. Track limits also something to just keep a tiny bit of an eye on in places, particularly sort of that outside of turn 1, but also If you hop too much of the inner loop, you can get yourself into a little bit of trouble. But the average speeds here are going to be phenomenal. And this is a car that makes that climbing S's quite challenging. For a GT3 car or some of the other high grip cars, it's no worries. But for these cars, woof, do they make it a bit hair-raising and a bit of work.
Yeah, for sure. Plenty hair-raising indeed. Split 2 action is going to be up first with the grid set by pre-qualifying order. We have 26 laps on the cards here with a 46% fuel tank restriction. Single compulsory pit stop for that fuel and potentially for tyres if you feel that you need them. By updated V8SCOPS rules, you only have to stop in the box to satisfy the CPS requirement, but you will likely need a bit of fuel over the course of this event. You have from laps 2 to 25 in order to do it. So let's bring ourselves in to the session and keep an eye on how things are going in practice. There's a few drivers here that I have not seen in a very long time. The driver in P1 here, Kane Kugamiya. I remember when I first started commentary here on SimSpeed TV, some over 10 years ago now, Kane Kugamiya was one of the most regular competitors in Aussie V8 racing on the iRacing servers. It's been a long time coming, but it's good to see him back out there.
I assume SimSpeed was still broadcasting in black and white when you started.
Yes, indeed. We didn't even have ads before broadcasts. We had to literally hold up cards in front of the camera to satisfy our sponsor requirements. But Kugamiya currently running 1 minute 11s in practice, being shadowed very closely by Brian Borg. We have Brady Baldwin, Matt Morris, and Ryan Mueller rounding out the top 5 here. Matthew Hansford-Taylor for Eclipse Sim Sports in 9th in practice at the moment, and demonstrating a little bit the issues that drivers will have exiting the pits here. That's the 21st place car of Benjamin Smith that was having a bit of trouble up through the S's.
Yeah, like we said, for a lot of other cars, it's sort of flat out up there, but for these cars, they have an abundance of horsepower and not blessed with an abundance of grip, so it makes corners like that really challenging, where you're right up against the limit in a really high speed corner. And a few of the other corners around here are also quite high speed. As you see, the penultimate corner is pretty fast and committed, and the track limits there could come into play. And then you also get this final corner where your track out point is up against the wall. It's almost a little bit street circuit in that final corner. There's no runoff beyond the curbing. There's just tyre bundles, safer barriers, and arm guard.
Yeah, you're on edge the whole way around this circuit. And the run up through the S's is another one of those places where the runoff is very slim and you're right on the edge of grip. Borg coming back out here in the Racecraft Simulations Mustang. That is a beautiful looking livery there. Getting some Gulf vibes from that blue and orange scheme. A little bit of pastel out there. Always lovely to see. But Borgie here demonstrating once again the exit of turn 5. Running all the way out to the tarmac runoff, but you want to try and get back on the racetrack before the curve ends, otherwise you'll get the dreaded off-track 1X. And all of these preparations that the drivers have put in, I mean, pre-qualifying is only the half of it. You know, they would have been setting up practice servers, practicing on their own time in the week leading up to this event. And this 30-minute session, which is entered its final 5, is their last chance here to make sure they have everything down.
Keeping an eye on the weather and the sky as it's 20 past 1 in the afternoon, but it is not a stinking hot day or a super sunny day at the moment. So the sun comes out heading towards turn 2, but it's predominantly overcast. In the iRacing parlance, there is a clear day where there is no clouds in the sky. There is partly cloudy, where the sky is about 20 to 30% cloud. There's mostly cloudy, it's kind of 60, 70, and overcast, it's at 90% or more cloud cover in the sky. So the sun could peek through some little holes in the cloud cover, but very, very rarely.
Yeah, so what that tells us is there's not going to be much rise in the track temperature over the course of this race. It's looking like overcast conditions until 3:30 p.m. in sim time. It's currently just coming up to 1:30 p.m. and we'll be well and truly done with this 26 lap race before that point. So no chance of seeing a big amount of sun. The track temperature should stay around 28 degrees Celsius as it is now. Good improvement from Brett Loxton there, getting himself up to 1:11.0, 11.5 on the previous lap for the HJR Team Jinx Shifters machine. And Loxton will be racing for a potential golden ticket here. We can't forget the big prize for Split 2. The top 3 have the chance to race in Split 1 later on in the night. And considering how close the field usually is at Watkins Glen, I think this is going to be one of the most hotly contested rights to that podium yet.
Yeah, your reward for good racing is doing more racing tonight.
Sounds a bit like the workplace.
It's well known that success and efficiency is always rewarded with more work.
I'm sure that they'll enjoy having another lob around Watkins Glen as we keep an eye on Harry Dodds here on board in the final minutes of the session. Down to turn 1, climbing all over the curb on the exit of the corner, and he'll have to get off the curb a bit earlier than he wanted there. Car having some issues at the exit of the first turn. Just balancing the throttle here at the very top of the 5th gear there, and snicking up into 6th as he makes his way down the back straight, then hard on the brakes for the inner loop all over the curbs on the way through. The car is bouncing and diving and throwing you around, but these cars can certainly take it. They're Australian touring cars built for big curbs like this. And then the long carousel of the outer loop out onto the gravel, the tarmac runoff. That is where the boot section of the circuit rejoins, and then hard on the brakes again into the sweeping penultimate corner, where you can take quite a bit of the curb on the exit, but don't run too far beyond it. You will trigger the off track, and if you run too wide out of this final corner, then as you mentioned earlier, David, the safer barrier is there to greet you with open arms.
Yes, it enforces the track limits there, and it's the beyond the curbing on the outside of turn 1 here, and beyond the outside of the curbing in turn 6, where you will get an off track, but it's not as strict through the outer loop, and then pure for ties in the grass anywhere else. That's off track. But you're looking at some of those track limits in those places being enforced by incident points, not by slowdowns.
Yeah, one of the places that you can pick up a slowdown is if you cut this inner loop chicane, and saw that happen in Split 2 on a couple of occasions on Saturday night when drivers just got on the brakes too hard, locked up, and went deep into the corner. Had to take to the grass. At least the runoff's there, and it should avoid you getting into the wall, but you want to avoid putting yourself in that position in the first place. Well, speaking of positions, we better go through those grid positions as the session flicks on over. On pole position is going to be the 966 of Matt Morris. Morris will be very happy with his runnings in pre-qual. It's just got him into the top spot there with Jackson Barry alongside him. Brian Borg and Matthew Hansford-Taylor will round out the second row, with Oceana Colangelo in 5th place, Russell Pepperell in 6th. Moving on to 7th spot, we have Angus Lawford and Brett Loxton on the 4th row. Jaden Green and Kenneth Latter round out your top 10. It's Matthew Pluck and William Brown rounding out your top 12.
So then Jack Pickett and Brady Baldwin are on the next row. Troy Stone Street and Ken Kugamiya had all that pace in the warm-up. He'll start from 16th on the grid, so maybe one to keep an eye out for. James Chastanoff in 17th and Brody Sentence in 18th. And then Billy Mole, Ryan Mueller, Harold Stadler, Zachary Weissblom, Michael Whiting and Dion DeGraff in 24th. It's a good-looking grid.
David Kirby and Paul Young are your 25th and 26th positions, with 27th and 28th being Ben Smith and Blake Neck. Eccleston and Dawson will round out your top 30. And then we move through to Jamie Dyke and Tim Nicol. This is a big grid. Stacey Boyd and Jason Douglas, with Stephen Banks and Riley Bilson rounding out your 36 there. Harry Dodds and Robert Tomei are going to start just inside the top 40, with Mark Poynton and William Morgan rounding it out. Blackburn and Skilbeck 41st and 42nd. And our last few cars here, Sean Van der Meulen and Aaron Gilbert, apparently were sitting in the server as reserves, but will not be taking it to the grid. We have 42 starters here tonight, and this is, I think, the most cars that I've seen around Watkins Glen. Usually, V8SCOPS has had 40-car grids for most of its history. This is quite a number. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled for the call of the green flag shortly, but just a few seconds remaining, about 30 or so on the grid timer. Track temperature staying at 28 degrees Celsius, and we have quite some winds happening here. 25 km/h gusts from the north. Now, that tells me that's a headwind down the front straight and a tailwind down the back straight. These are going to be some quite high speeds that are being reached into the inner loop. Waiting for the last few seconds of the grid timer here. And it's all going to come down to the standing start here for Matt Morris. He needs to get that good start into turn one to consolidate his position here in the opening laps at Watkins Glen. Split 2 is go, and that's a lot of wheel spin there for Jackson Barry. He almost lost it and went right into Brian Borg. It was all a bit of a sluggish start as well from Matt Morris. Hansford Taylor's going to try and get him around the outside at turn 1. Uses all of the runoff area, taking the off track there, I believe, is Hansford Taylor. Just to consolidate the lead as it's 3 wide for Matthew Pluck, Jackson Barry, and pulling out there was Brett Loxton. Didn't want any part of that. We come up to the squeeze point of the circuit. I think I saw some smoke down at turn 2. Looks like a couple of cars that have been trailing off the back. Blackburn and Morgan, Vincent Skilbeck, and Rob Tomei has had a spin at turn 2. So, there's your next spin. That's Loxton that's gone around at the inner loop. These guys are struggling for grip out there.
Concertina effect there, bouncing over the curb and just gets a tap from behind, sending straight into the wall. A couple of other cars have been around, and indeed, one of the first that went around was Vincent Skilbeck, turn 1. He had a compressed field from that standing start. It's tall gears for a high average speed circuit here, which means that the first and second gear launching from the standing start can bog down, and maybe too many revs cause wheel spin. The higher the peak speed, the tougher the standing start.
Yeah, long first gear. It can be difficult to keep the car in that optimum rev range, and also let out the clutch at the right rate. Well, lap 1 complete. It's over just like that. And you go around again for another run at this one. Harold Stadler, 24th place at the moment. He just lost a heap of positions there in at the start of the lap. So I think maybe a botched exit out of the first turn as they try to keep each other within a reasonable distance through the inner loop. We have Loxton in the pits, no surprise there. He's got a bit of damage to repair.
For Stadler, there was just a little bit of contact at turn 1, so a bit of contact in some places, and then just losing a couple of spots, trying to get going again and then get up the hill.
Fight on for the lead. Matt Morris trying to get it back here from Matthew Hansford-Taylor. Hansford-Taylor has not set an official best lap time yet. He's gotten off tracks on both of his laps so far. Now the slipstream is on here for Matt Morris. Will he have the opportunity to go for the pass and go for the lead? Does he even want the lead at this point? It's a lot like super speedway racing. You don't want to be the one punching the hole in the air for everyone else. You stick behind, it's an opportunity to save fuel. Well, it doesn't stop Matt Morris from piling the pressure on here.
Third and fourth apex curbs through there. He carries a lot of speed. So Matt Morris was right up behind Hansford-Taylor coming off the inner loop and then through the outer loop here, where if it's paved, it's fair game. So the pressure is on, forcing defense from the race leader.
Well, there we go. There's the move. It hasn't quite worked out for him, though. Wasn't able to carry the momentum through the corner. A little bit of side-by-side has brought Brian Borg back into contention as we check out the replay here for Loxton on the outside, and it looks like that might be Kugamiya that is alongside him, but it seems like contact wasn't made. It was entirely the curb there that turned Loxton around. Oh, who else spun there? Red car? Looks like Jace Douglas, I believe, that also had an issue at the inner loop there. He was on the outside, and oh man, it's so difficult to run side by side through here. That is the Project 36 Camaro making contact with him around the outside, and that was almost a dangerous re-entry. Well, lead battle's still happening, but there's dramas all through this field. I'm also noticing that Paul Young has picked up quite a bit of damage somewhere. The Phase 4 Motorsport Camaro missing its front end, as the front end of Matt Morris is now alongside Matthew Hansford-Taylor around the outside through the last corner, but Hansford-Taylor is not willing to give Morris an inch.
No, Morris tried the other way through turn 6 the lap previously and didn't come away with the lead, so we thought he would get around the outside, but he wasn't near far enough to stay in that position.
Almost looked at 3 wide behind the Project 36 Mustangs of Angus Lawford and Jaden Green, under a lot of pressure from the Kiwi Sim Racing car of Matthew Pluck. Race control have decided Rob Tomei and Vincent Skilbeck. That was actually the first incident on lap 1. No further action, failure to leave racing room. So that's one thing worked out from this race. I guess now they're going to be getting on to what happened at this sequence here. On board with the Kiwi Sim Racing car. Jackson Barry behind goes for a huge spin. It looks like potentially Brady Baldwin involved with him there. And Kenneth Latter as well. Oh God, Baldwin was stuck in the middle of the track, and he's just been cleaned up by a whole group of cars there. I think this might be a safety car.
Yeah, Baldwin's in an absolute state there, particularly. Front left means he's going to be steering nowhere. The smoke coming out of the engine says he's going to be given no power, and that rear left wheel says no traction. He's going to go to the ground. Matt Morris and Brian Borg pit.
Yeah, looks like they're anticipating a safety car here, and they have called it exactly. Race control has just called the safety car. So Matt Morris and Brian Borg with a good advantage over the rest of the field here, and it's crucially after the end of lap 2, so the pit window was already open. It would have been allowed to come in. We have a whole raft of cars further down the field that have decided to get stuff done here, but for now, let's have a look from the perspective of Kenneth Latter here. Brady Baldwin's the car behind at this point, and he will play a role in this. So on the brakes, very deep is Latter. Jackson Barry losing a bit of momentum there over the curb, and Barry just taps him around. Then they both get hit by Baldwin from behind. And there's Baldwin's front bumper standing forlorn, and, well, as the field came through, I mean, they would have been seeing yellow flags. Would have thought they would have exercised a bit more caution there. But regardless, Brady Baldwin's not going to be a happy camper from that, as there's the response from the rest of the field.
yeah, a race onto pit lane with this safety car. They are all in.
Looks like the first car to make contact with Brady Baldwin was Harold Stadler, so we'll see it from Baldwin's perspective. Yeah. Brady Baldwin didn't check up, and then he sits there, and in comes Stadler and company right here. And there's the first hit, there's the second hit. One of the Camaros getting in on him there. Looks like that one was Alan Dawson, the secondary contact, and that's completely destroyed Brady Baldwin's car. He probably would have been able to get it going. The problem is, when you're stopped in the middle of the racetrack like that, you can't really move because you've got the entire field coming up on you, and you've got to wait for them to try and get around you before you try and get going again. But then the other side of the coin to that is maybe they won't slow down in time, and you'll be in danger of being cleaned up.
Everyone's pitted except Rob Tomei. I was about to that, but yeah, that Matt Morris makes a bit of a jump through the pit lane there. So he's jumped hands with Taylor with a quicker stop. Almost everyone's pit stops around 10 seconds. Now, we've seen this before in Split 2. You normally think, oh, you're going to want to take fuel and tyres at your compulsory stop. But some will look to save 2 or 3 seconds by going fuel only, and I think that shapes as fuel only for Matt Morris.
9.1 seconds is the stop for Matt Morris on my timing. Here's the view of the incident from Harold Stadler's perspective. Now, you've got to put yourself in his shoes here. He's trying to make overtakes. By this point, the yellow flag would have been showing up, and you can just see Baldwin being spun there, but Stadler's got cars ahead of him. He's tried. He's tried to actually take that avoiding action, but I think he got a hurry up from the cars behind, maybe a few bumps, and that sent him straight into Baldwin.
He might have been assisted along. Looking closely at these pit stop times, it all took place under this safety car. Almost everyone is sort of 10 and a half, 10.7 seconds, which I think is about the tyre change time.
So the car behind Stadler was Dion DeGraaf, and yeah, you see Stadler getting on the brakes for Baldwin, and DeGraaf probably should have braked a bit more there, and to be able to get by Baldwin. But you know, David, we were talking about this yesterday during the Aussie Car Bathurst 6 hour. Sometimes there's those incidents like that where, you know, you can take that sort of from above perspective and think, oh, yeah, the driver should have done this, that, and the other. But it happened all in a split second for these guys. They had to make a decision. And when you're trying to manage everything in a race car, sometimes it can be difficult for you to do that.
It happens in a heartbeat. One car waving around right now.
Yeah, that one car in question being Brett Loxton, who we already saw come into the pits for damage in the opening laps.
Zoom, he's passing 40 cars.
If only passing were that easy in race conditions. Oh, safety car had a bit of an internet issue there, I think. And Stevens blinked out of existence briefly as Loxton powers on by the rest of the field. And to give Loxton time to catch up to the back and to make sure that we don't restart the race with any danger to the lapped car, I believe we'll be spending one more lap here under safety car conditions. Stadler in the pits to get some more damage repaired. He's been in there for a minute now. And hopefully he'll be able to get back out there. Looks like the stop has just been completed there for Stadler. And he'll be able to get out ahead of the safety car and the rest of the field. He'll be able to go around without being taken off the lead lap. Harry Dodds, meanwhile, is... oh dear. Looks like Stadler's only gotten the minimum amount of repairs he could to get back out there. Still missing the front end from that Camaro, which is not going to help his straight line speed any. Harry Dodds spent nearly 10 minutes in the pit lane from damage that he has sustained. Tim Nicol, another driver involved in all of the carnage in those opening laps. So he'll take his opportunity to repair his car. So, race control message. Under review. Surprising absolutely no one.
There you go. So this will be the last lap of the safety car. Hansford Taylor with the longest stop of just about anyone. It cost him that spot on pit lane under safety car, but I feel very confident saying he's got new tyres on and he'll have no fuel conservation worries or less worries than the others. So look for Hansford Taylor to now need to put the pressure back on Matt Morris, the reverse of how it was sort of lap 2, lap 3.
Yeah, and we're going to get a quick replay of the lap 5 incident here between the 025 and the 84. Jack Pickett being one of the cars involved in that, and they both went off heavy there. The Fishy Motorsport car having to take to the runoff area, and you never know, that might have played a role in all the other cars' actions there as they tried to get past Brady Baldwin.
You could see smoke in the air in a couple of places, and where there's smokes, there's fires.
There certainly be. And we're going to bring this race off to its first restart with Rob Tomei, the only driver not to visit the pit lane under safety car. Now, it hasn't been any more than about 8 laps or so that these tyres will have had in anger. So there should still be some pace here for Rob Tomei as he gets the start going here nice and early on the way into the final corner. But look for the likes of Matt Morris and co. to be on the back of him practically instantly. Remember, Tomei started down in 38th. He was one of the last starting drivers. So I think there's going to be a big pace difference here up the front for the first few laps. But I think Tomei, if he wanted to get a good position in this race, had to do this. Go through the safety car without pitting and go long. Pit towards the end of the race and see what kind of result you can manage. Nice clean run through the S's for our front runners. And wait to see what gains can be made in the slipstream. It looks like Brian Borg was gaining a bit on Matthew Hansford Taylor coming into the inner loop. But we're going to have to wait a lap or so before we see those passes.
That early pit stop under safety car from everyone sees them really needing to save an incredible amount of fuel, and maybe Tomei staying out and then taking the green flag stop deeper in the race means he's definitely on a one-stop strategy. Others might be heading a little bit towards a two-stop strategy. Matt Morris has cleared Tomei, and obviously there's going to be a couple of quicker cars right here, but for Hansel Taylor, Brian Borg, others, they can't wait around too much longer, and they're not going to.
Yeah. Morris, in passing Tomei, did not get a good run out of the final corner, and that's created this whole glut of cars behind. Hansford Taylor getting through on Tomei, but Borgie's going to have to wait a few moments longer for it. Slip to the inside of turn 4. Maybe pick up a little bit of side draft if you can. But Tomei carrying a bit too much momentum for Borg. He's going to have to do it under brakes here at the inner loop. And Tomei almost gets into him, but Borgie will have the inside line for the carousel. Tomei suffering a bit of oversteer there that turns into understeer as he gets on the brakes. And now Ocean Colangelo and the 5 other drivers behind her will have a go.
Yeah, Pepperell, Green, Lawford, Clark, Chastano for the next group. A bit busy here into turn 6 as they go around the outside of Tomei, which works successfully for most of these drivers to then get the inside of 7. We're going to have a little bit of door banging there.
Just a little bit. Rob Tomei is getting swamped at the moment, but he's still getting his nose into it. He's wanting to race these guys for everything he's got. He takes the position back from Jaden Green at turn 1.
And obviously he restarted with some really, really quick guys behind him, but he does have a lighter car than everyone else at the moment. And it's the safety car gives you the chance to pull off the tyres. How much damage has Pickett got?
That is the second problem for Jack Pickett, and more problems for one of the Eclipse cars. Looks like Jackson Barry. Goodness me, that's the first time that we've seen both Jackson Barry and Jack Pickett in strife in this race. Hopefully Pickett will be able to get back going again, but the Rapid Theft number 84, he was coming off the curb as the race on Oscar was alongside him. Safety car's been called again.
For the second time. It's going to be a busy BMW M2. See, if the curb is legal track to use, which it is, then and then the curb ends just before turn 2 there, I think you've got to let the driver stay on the track, because the curb is the track, but the grass is not the track. So you can't force them off the curb and onto the grass. Now there's a lockup, you're wide, but then you're on the curb, which is racetrack.
I'm not too sure. Oh, that's Latter actually turning the Eclipse driver around there. So that was the second incident. But yeah, I see what you're trying to say. The curb out of turn 2, very wide, very long. It basically goes all the way from the exit of turn 1 to the entry of turn 2. However, my counterpoint would be that these cars, when they turn in for that second corner, the rear end likes to come around on you. You want to be on that smooth tarmac before you really commit to the corner, and I think that's what Jack Pickett was trying to do. Unfortunately, I think he may not have been entirely aware of the car alongside him. Well, Harold Stadler is going to take this opportunity for more damage repair. He's going to try and get as much repaired as he can under safety car here. Jack Pickett towing back to pit lane.
There's a handful more wave arounds. Tomei pits now.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that he didn't come in when the safety car was called, because it was called coming into the last 2 corners. That would have been enough time for Tomei to jump into the pits, but maybe he had to set up a couple of things. He's going to stay out again here. I think he might just be trying to go as long as he can into the race, regardless of the safety car.
You've got Harold Stadler, who's been through pit lane 4 times. Tomei, who's been through pit lane 0 times. Most of the field once with that first safety car.
Very intriguing strategy play here from Rob Tomei. We'll have to wait and see if this works out for him, if he has some kind of plan behind this. And race control reviewing the incident between the 770 and the 09 one. It looks like Stacey Boyd and Vincent Skilbeck had a coming together. Stacey Boyd racing from the United States, and we believe one of the drivers who takes part in the Americas split of the official iRacing Supercars series. So Skilbeck in the gold Camaro behind Stacey Boyd in the blue and white Mustang. And, Skilbeck just lost the rear on the way in. As he was recovering it, got into Boyd.
Had a rear lock up and a snap and a slide. Potentially about the same time as the downshift.
Safety car in this lap. We will get this race restarted for the second time. And there's potential here. If the safety car pattern continues, if we get 2 more safety cars, we're being told, we could get a time-certain race here. It's a maximum of 50 minutes that the race can take part in. 26 laps around Watkins Glen. If you go safety car free, that's around about, I think, just over half an hour or so. But all this time spent trundling behind that BMW M2 is eating into that time. Crucially for Matt Morris, he is back up at the front. He doesn't have any cars that he needs to get by. And this will be a lot easier to execute than a standing start. Look at the hurry up that Tomei is getting there from the Project 36 cars. Well, they are away, and it looks like Tomei a little bit too far back from everyone else for the liking of drivers behind him. But we are away once more. And Tomei will continue defending the position. Morris leads from Hansford Taylor from Borg. But Ocean Colangelo and Russell Pepperell will be the ones mounting the attack here, because the Project 36 cars of Jaden Green and Angus Lawford currently stuck behind Rob Tomei, whose tyres will probably be reaching the end of their maximum potential.
There's Chastano. Timing shows Angus Lawford dropping big time.
Internet issue for him. Just pop back in front of Chasty there. And here's the move. Diving up the inside of the penultimate corner goes Jaden Green. Up to 6th spot for the driver who started in 9th. And Tomei tries to go... No, that's not a defense there from Tomei. He's going for the pits. And, well, we'll see where this ultimately puts him. He is going to be dead last. But we'll see where he goes from here. Ocean Colangelo now having to defend from Russell Pepperell. Pepperell, the driver who dominated the GTC support category last year, and jumping into the Camaro, KSR emblazoned. Team Max Boost's Ocean Colangelo, young female Carter. See what she'll be able to do to hold off this very angry-looking Camaro behind her. Tomei's pit stop is complete, and he will come out in 37th place. He's saved by the likes of Dawson, Loxton, Dodds, and company being stuck in the pit lane or a couple of laps down. Pepperell's still trying to psych out Colangelo here. Have to see if she can bring up the pace.
A little wide of turn 7 there. Pepperell doesn't quite get power how he'd like. So how tall the gears are. A lot of the drivers aren't using 6th on their way to turn 1. Pepperell, with a bit of a toe, gave it a go, but some are leaving it in 5th.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to get the slingshot effect out of the S's here, and you'll be well and truly in a good position to fight into the inner loop. There's your top 3 all together. A little bit of side-by-side there. Looks like... yeah, around about this area here is Zach Vlasblom running 14th and trying to get past Brody Sentence and Troy Stone Street from the Wodonga Karts and Parts squad. Very big battle for 12th, and seeing behind there's an attempt from one of the Mustangs there of Riley Bilson. Bilson did not have the best of nights last night in the supports V8s category. But here he is trying to fight his way up through split 2. Bit of oversteer on the exit, and oh dear, in his vicinity, big incident. The track is almost blocked there on the start-finish straight, threading the needle through these cars. My lord, the speed that these drivers are carrying. David Kirby, one of the drivers, stopped there, and Mark Poynton as well. Two drivers who are very regular competitors in the V8 Veterans category, as that looks like Matt Morris has gone deep at the bus stop, taking the conventional road, as it were. He's got to slow down, and that's going to give Matthew Hansford-Taylor the lead.
Yeah, so he's managed to clear it at this point. William Brown's got one. But that's been super costly there for Matt Morris. He's had a mistake coming into the inner loop. He's cut it, and he's really had to serve a painful penalty. Hansford-Taylor, it was so easy for him. It was pretty easy for Brian Borg even to go through. It doesn't affect the top 3. It's still the same drivers in the top 3 looking to transfer, if you will, into top split of V8SCOPS. Puts them all a little bit closer to the pack, to Colangelo and Pepperell and Jaden Green, and this is the contact.
Oh, so Kirby tried to go to the inside there, but there wasn't enough space between himself and Poynton to get it done. And just have a look at the speed that the other drivers are carrying here. That's way too fast to be making your way through 2 cars stopped on the racetrack. So I get the feeling Kirby might be handed the blame for that. Safety car has been called again, because it looks like Kenneth Latter has stopped on the way up to turn 6. That's been an entirely separate incident that we've missed.
It's on top of the pedestrian underpass before turn 6, and he's had one to forget a couple of incidents in just a short number of green flag laps.
Oh, I've just reviewed the incident. Now, you remember how Kenneth Latter and Jackson Barry were together before, involved in an incident? It's the same 2 drivers. Barry coming off the racetrack here. Latter attempting the move at the carousel. Barry comes back onto the circuit, and that looked a bit borderline to me.
Did look a little how you're going.
Well, that is going to be the 4 and the 269. Those 2 cars under review again from race control. Seems like the boys up in the stewards booth are working overtime in split 2 here. It's been quite a carnage-filled race. This is our 3rd safety car. Here's the view from Jackson Barry. Latter comes up alongside him, and at the point they come back onto the circuit, Barry has the space to just stick to the left side of the circuit, but for some reason, he turns towards Latter. Well, a big shame for the driver who started in 2nd place. This is the view from behind on the Phase 4 Camaro. And I think that tells the story right there.
Wave around. It's going to get one. Brett Loxton's going to get another. The only driver will actually get back onto the lead lap this way around. A few of them will go from 3 laps down to 2 laps down, sort of thing. But as the procedure, here they go. And also for everyone else, it just gets them out of the way.
Yeah, that it does. Mark Poynton has come in to the pit lane under this safety car, and he's gotten quite a few repairs done after his after the contact from David Kirby. He has gotten back out there, and it looks like still on the lead lap, so that'll be a bit of a relief for Mark Poynton there.
Morris is going to have very little opportunity to try to get that race lead back. Whatever strategy he pulled at the very first safety car, I think was a good one. And he's had that mistake on the inner loop. Hanson Taylor's gone through, and I think we're going to restart 5 to go.
Yeah, looks like it. Elapsed, it looks like I'm seeing on my timing 7 minutes and 30 seconds remaining on the race timer, so I think it might still be a bit borderline if we end up going time certain.
Mine that flicks automatically between both of them is still saying laps. It hasn't gone the same time just yet. And if we restart here and stay green at the end, we get all the laps in. But if we stay at this pace for too much longer, we start eating more of the clock. The safety car laps are basically half the speed, i.e. twice the time of green flag racing. Green flag lap we're doing minute 11 to minute 12, and it's 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes with the safety car, which is going to pull away now.
All right. Dan Stevens will certainly be hoping that this is the last time he's called upon in this race. But a crucial restart for Matthew Hansford-Taylor and Brian Borg at the front of this field. They've been solidly in the top 3 the whole day long. And Matt Morris missing his braking point at the bus stop and going straight through, getting that slowdown back into 3rd. This is his opportunity to redeem himself from that and try and get that win again. But he'll have to worry about a refired Ocean Colangelo and Russell Pepperell trying to threaten him for that final spot on the podium. Hansford-Taylor puts the power down, the green flag flies, and we're away to make it 5 laps to go here at Watkins Glen.
Less gaps in the top 10 on this restart than there was on some of the previous ones. Brian Borg was all over Hansford-Taylor, and there weren't too many other gaps to be found in the field. Looking at Troy Stone Street here, some of the biggest movers as we look for a sprint towards the end. Chastano qualified 17th, races 8th at the moment. Ryan Mueller qualified 20th, races 10th at the moment. They're just sort of on the fringes of the top 10 right now, but have gained a lot of positions. We've got to talk about the top 3 that are going to move forward into the top split of V8SCOPS. If they can hold on, is Matt Morris going to be able to hold on, or is he prone to a similar mistake again? And Brian Borg and Hansford-Taylor just keep it tidy in the battle for the win.
Well, it looks like Hansford-Taylor is clearly gapping Borg at the moment. He's being a bit more of a libertine with those track limits, and he's carrying more speed out of the corners as a result. I think he might have saved some off tracks in the bank and used them up on turn 1 in particular to get that gap. Pepperell still pressuring Colangelo for 4th as they complete the 5th last lap. And we've got one of our first race control decisions. Drive-through penalty for Alan Dawson for contact with Jamie Dyke and Tim Nicol back on lap 3. So they've only managed to start working their way through those incidents. It's been a very tightly packed race when it comes to race control worthy incident reviews. The Banner Alliance car of, I believe, James Chastaneuf there, with Ryan Mueller just behind. Billy Mole on board here as he tries to find his way past Ryan Mueller. The Pacific Esports Racing Camaro holds strong into the inner loop chicane. You also want to talk about cars that have made up bulk positions in this one. Blake Neck started in 28th position, and he's up to 14th. He's right at the back of this pack here.
And as we think about those track limits, you said drivers using them in turn 5, drivers using them in turn 1. It's a 26 lap race and the incident limit is 25, so you can't do it every single lap mathematically. A few of those have been eaten up by the 3 safety cars that we've had. But another thing to keep in mind when we go top split racing as well is that while the outer loop, you can use all of the track you want, you can't exceed the runoff of turn 1 every lap and get away with it. But maybe if you've driven cleanly and you've saved a few, now's the time that you get tempted to spend those tickets. Brian Ball checks the fastest lap of the race. This is a change, 6th and 7th.
Yeah, looks like Jaden Green and Angus Lawford running in formation still behind the battle. Yeah, potentially. Look at this. Here's the pressure now that Jaden Green's putting on Russell Pepperell. And this may give Oceane Colangelo the breathing room that she needs. Chastaneuf, though, gets up the inside of Pluck, and that is a move for 8th position done there for Chasty, making his way from outside the top 15. Some solid pace from the Banner Alliance Mustang here today. Might not be enough to get into the top 3, who have broken away from Colangelo. Our same 3 protagonists up at the front of this field. Hansford Taylor leading from Borg and from Morris, but there is a gap of about 1.2 seconds that Oceane Colangelo has to make up, and she might be just outside slipstream range now.
Turn 1's where some of the moves have been, or a little bit of bumper-to-bumper contact there. The drivers lift when they got to not turn the other drivers, and Chastaneuf and Pluck went back and forth a couple of times because Pluck got down the inside of turn 1 on Chastaneuf, then Chastaneuf's taken the inner loop and ridden the curbs like a kid's carousel to then try to strike back. 3 have got pace. No one else seems to be able to match, and this engineered swap between Jaden Green and Angus Lawford, is it going to net results?
And that is the question. Oceane Colangelo's definitely the cork in the bottle here in the battle for 4th, and Pepperell is absolutely reaming it out of the corner there. Colangelo will have to go defensive, or will she? Oh, maybe a bit of contact on the rear there as Pepperell sails through at the second last corner, and Colangelo vaults over the curb on the outside. I don't know if there was contact there, but she's managed to find her way back onto the racetrack. It looks like there was a bit of contact. Jaden Green just got into her as she was sliding. So Colangelo falling all the way back to 12th place there as Zach Vlasblom now is the next car to get past her.
Kamara was a bucking Bronco for a second there, launching over the curbs there, and it creates a check-up. Going too wide is so challenging here. 1 lane, you can't go flat out. 2, you've really got to be careful with the throttle and your inputs, and then it's going to cost you speed onto this next straight. We start lap 26. This is your leading 3.
Yes, Brian Borg picking up a good slipstream from Hansford Taylor on the back straight, but wasn't close enough to make the move. Is there going to be an opportunity here on the exit of turn 5? Hansford Taylor is solid on those exits, and that was a completely legal line that he used there. You are allowed to use all of that tarmac runoff. Is there going to be any kind of lunge here from Borg or from Morris in the last corner? There won't be. It is done. It is sorted. Hansford Taylor exiting the final corner to win here in Split 2.
Chaotic with 3 safety cars, but there's no doubt that Hansford Taylor was one of the best today in this race. Matt Morris cracking a little bit under the pressure, but showed a lot of pace. And Brian Ball will come away with the fastest lap of the race, only 1,000th of a second quicker than what Matt Morris did. Borg and Morris also had a lot of pace, but Hansford Taylor measured it the best.
Certainly did. Race Control have moved to time penalties now in their deliberations. Michael Whiting has been given a 5-second penalty for contact with Jack Pickett back on lap 5, and I think the rest of those incidents are going to have to be post-race reviews, because there was just so much going on in that short 26-lap time span. This is Watkins Glen. This is how V8SCOPS goes around here. I've got to say, if you're Race Control, you're probably not looking forward to the Split 1 race to come, but we certainly are.
Well, I think a longer race sort of settles it a little bit, because in a loop, more like inner ear, that was dizzying stuff. and dominated by the safety cars, but still, you needed to correctly read the strategy. You needed to nail every corner on a lap where there's really not too many corners. You've got to get every single one of them right.
Yeah, indeed. Well, there's your results. Hansa, Taylor, Borg, and Morris have the opportunity now to race in Split 1 later on tonight. Russell Pepperell gets 4th place in the end, and Jaden Green will lead his teammate Angus Lawford home, completing the top 6. James Chastanerve up to 7th from 17th. A beautiful run there from the 427. Matthew Pluck gets into the top 10 as well from 11th. Ryan Mueller up from 20th to 9th. Zach Vlasblom, he started all the way back in 22nd, and he gets 10th.
Colangelo ended up in 11th after all of the late race drama, ahead of Brody Sentence, Billy Mole, Blake Neck, Troy Stonestreet, Michael Whiting, William Brown, Jamie Dyke, Kane Kugimiya, and Riley Bilson. All of this provisional before race control add any post-race time penalties, of which there's at least one and perhaps some more coming.
Yeah, indeed. 16 positions up for Bilson as well. That's a great run there. 6 places gained for Benjamin Smith. Stephen Banks, he started 35th up to 22nd. Good run there. It was a quiet one, though, in the midst of a very noisy race. Eccleston, Morgan, and Paul Young round out your top 25, and Young would have been hoping for a bit better from that one. And last time we saw him, he had big damage to the front end. Jace Douglas from 34th to 26th. Outside the top 40, Tyler Blackburn started, up to 27th for him. Stacey Boyd from 33rd to 28th. Vincent Skilbeck started last of everybody and gets 29th for his troubles, with Dion de Graaf rounding out your top 30, involved in that lap 1 incident with Matthew Hansford, with Tim Nicol in 31st. Harold Stadler made it back out onto the racetrack, as did Alan Dawson, and Rob Tomei. Well, his decision to stay out under that first safety car made him a feature at the front, but he fell out of the running when he finally decided to take his stop. Poynton and Loxton, they'll finish a lap down. David Kirby, maybe with a penalty to his name after his contact with Poynton, 2 laps down. Harry Dodds, 3 laps down. And Jackson Barry and Kenneth Latter did not make it to the finish after their coming together. Final 2 drivers being Jack Pickett, Daniel Stevens, Brady Baldwin, and Baldwin, the first car out here after that horrific incident at the bus stop. Well, that concludes runnings for the first part of the night here at Watkins Glen this beautiful Sunday, the 27th of April. And we will have yet more coming today here on SimSpeed TV. Stay with us, because V8SCOPS Split 1 is going to go very soon.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, V8SCOPS Round 3 from Watkins Glen, and, well, we are going to get into Split 1 action very shortly, but before we do, check in with our Split 2 winner, Matthew Hansford-Taylor. Tell you what, Matt, that was a really good race from you. You took advantage of the mistakes from others at the front and drove through those 3 safety cars. It must have been brutal waiting that long, trundling behind the M2.
Yeah, definitely was. Definitely gets the nerves up a bit having to trundle around behind a safety car. But no, other than that, it was a very good race. My first sort of proper race in the new supercar. Don't really do much. But no, it was, other than that, pretty good. Very much enjoyed it and keen now for Split 1.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed a couple of times you were using the runoff area out of turn 1 quite liberally. Obviously, this is one of those circuits where if it's paved, it's fair game. But picking up a couple off tracks here and there, were those tactical runs through the runoff there at turn 1?
Yeah, a bit. Obviously, having the 25, you have a bit of leeway. Obviously, hoping that you don't end up with 4Xs. But yeah, luckily enough, was able to not get many 4Xs or none really, and then just able to take advantage of it a bit and help the run up the hill.
Well, you've got 2 28-lap races coming up here in Split 1, and so that's going to be an awful lot of work to do. Do you think, though, that the action's going to be less frenetic with the longer race distances?
Oh, you never know. Could be a bit more. Obviously, hopefully it's pretty calm, able to make my way forward, but definitely think there'll be some action here and there, and yeah, keen to have a go up against some faster drivers, obviously, as well.
Yeah, indeed. Well, wishing you the best of luck, Matthew. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, big thanks to Clip Sim Sports, 5-6 Sim Coaching, Lutu Driver Performance, to Zach and Damo, all the work they do as well, and yeah, big thanks to all them.
Well, big thanks to you as well, Matthew Hansford-Taylor, for joining us, and we'll let you get your preparations done. Good luck.
Perfect, thank you.
Matthew Hansford-Taylor there, winning Split 2 here at Watkins Glen. And when we get into the meat of things here, it will be shortly time to run through how things stand coming into this round. But before we do that, let's have a look at what's up here for the third round of the championship, a 2-race format. The grid set by qualifying for race 1. Both races will go for 28 laps. There is going to be 1 compulsory pit stop and a fuel tank restriction. Basically going to be a double sprint here, David. It's looking good for some very typical Watkins Glen insanity.
Yeah, but 2 laps longer than what we just saw out of Split 2, and the fuel tank size just fractionally larger there as well. Very broad CPS window. We'll see what the fuel tank size makes of that. Perhaps you couldn't stop and make it to the end off of a lap 2 or lap 3 safety car, which I think we're going to bump up the odds on the likelihood of. I'm going from 60% to 80% chance.
Yeah, for sure. We do have race control penalties still coming in from Split 2 there. Banks getting a 5-second penalty for a safety car procedure violation, and that was off the second safety car, I believe. Eccleston looks like Banks had a bit too much overlap with him, and so race control have slammed him with an extra 5 seconds to his race time. A beautiful view of what is a very simple circuit from the air here. News also for Vincent Skilbeck. That contact with Stacey Boyd netting him a penalty, a post-race drive-through, which is quite a significant time penalty. That's not going to be ideal for him. But we should keep an eye on championship standings coming into this round after 2 rounds of racing, starting at Montreal and then going to Manicourt for the second round. Jake Maloney is on top, 884 points. Rehan Leonage trailing him there by about 90 or so. Jake Burton, 3rd spot, only 8 points ahead of his Trans-Tasman Racing teammate Madison down there. Andrew Dyson has had a good run in the first couple rounds of the championship. Our reigning champion James Scott, on the other hand, has not. He's certainly not lost any of his pace, but the race results haven't quite reflected that. He is 6th, only 10 points ahead of Zach Rattray White, who has joined Eclipse Sim Sports. Was of Vermilion before, but now making a big team change there. One of the biggest up-and-comers in the community at the moment. Myers and Stenberg, the Trans-Tasman duo, 8th and 9th, and Jordan Ross rounding out your top 10 there. So we have some pretty good team representation, but it's just like a few years ago, seeing the top 10 dominated by Trans-Tasman Racing.
Yep, plenty of TTR up top. A bit of work perhaps for James Scott to do if he's going to go back-to-back as well, but it's still early days in this championship, and he's still got Enduro season to come, all of the excitement of that for V8SCOPS.
Going through the final 11 minutes of practice. Rattray White here in his brand new Eclipse Camaro. Down onto the next lap here. 18th for the moment. We'll see if he can make any improvements here on this next lap. It's a really good run for Trans-Tasman Racing in the practice session. Anderson and Maloney are 1-2 up the top of the standings, with Rehan Leonage and Jordan Ross popping themselves into 3rd and 4th, and Byron Phillips in car number 69 has managed to put himself up as the fastest of the Eclipse runners thus far. A very varied top 10 at the moment. We have Matthew Bowler up there too, Jake O'Reilly, Hayden Veld, Sam Blacklock as well, but Rick Kuznetsov making a big surprise there. The 9.5 SimSport car, we've seen some incredible flashes of brilliance from Mr. Kuznetsov over the last few years. First time I've seen him up the front of the V8SCOPS field in a while.
Practice session though doesn't pay any points, and it doesn't set the grid, and there will be drivers testing out their race setup. There will be drivers testing out their quali setup. It's the old, you know, FP1 topping, FP1, FP2, FP3 doesn't win you the world championship. In this one, I think it's pretty fair to say everyone you see in the top 10 of the standings here in this session is drivers that are angling to just tune in on their qualifying and one lap performance for the moment.
Yeah, I think the drivers all through the field will have been focusing on their race runs throughout the week leading up to the race, and potentially through pre-qualifying as well. This session really serves as, you know, their way of sort of dialing in the car. They, you know, the vast majority, if not all, of the teams in this server will have already had setups ready to go. They're just fine-tuning them to the track conditions at the moment, making sure that they're in practice, you know, moving parts are clean and oiled, so to speak. Jake Burton hammering over that curb there. That is not how you want to take the entry to the inner loop, but Burton has history here. Watkins Glen was the track where he took his first V8SCOPS win many years ago versus Jared Filsell.
Good facts.
plenty of historic action at Watkins Glen. Scott Gamble, meanwhile, driver that we usually see up the top of the V8 Veterans Championship. For the last few seasons, he's been the man to beat in that championship for drivers over 40 years of age.
Now, I've been told that if you go to the Watkins Glen Seneca Lodge bar, holding a trophy that's got your name engraved on it, you get half price.
Oh.
So that's great news for anyone with past wins here in V8SCOPS. Good news.
Indeed, I might have to draw a Max Bance style trophy for Jake Burton, for him to bring in, basically print it out, maybe fax it. Who
Certificate
knows?
of achievement.
Yes,
Signed
certificate
by
of achievement.
Southpaw Racer and SimSpeed. To whom it may concern. Oh, you got to write it out like the first page of your passport, where it's like, I do declare that you offer the bearer of this certificate all the hospitality that they shall require, signed, His Majesty, Her Majesty, and the Governor General.
I'm sure Jake could appreciate that. We were teammates for a while back in the Daco Motorsport days, and he's a Perth boy like me. So we've got a good amount of banter that we can exchange there.
And chill iced coffee.
Yes.
Not the
Always go
brand
for
that I've
Brown's
got.
Chill.
Not the brand that I've got at the moment, unfortunately, as I live out in the dirty east.
A very humid east. I remember the last time I went to Queensland, I was 14. Went to visit my dad's parents. They lived out in Caboolture, and every time you stepped outside, it was like walking into a giant pot of soup.
Yep. You swim through the air and you drink it as much as you drink it sometimes.
Meanwhile,
It's nice
in
right
Perth,
now. What's meanwhile in Perth before we talk about what's meanwhile at Watkins Glen?
Meanwhile in Perth, hashtag it's a dry heat. There's that little check mark off the bingo card for sand gropers. Anyway.
So, Split 2 was mostly cloudy, overcast, I think. This is now only partly cloudy. So you see the sun out, you see a bit more UV on the racing surface. And so I guess that influences the tyres that didn't seem to have a particularly drastic wear or drop off, or any noticeable difference between drivers that took tyres and drivers that didn't in Split 2. So maybe that just changes it a tiny bit here in this slightly longer races for the top split of V8SCOPS.
Another post-race penalty just came in there for Stacey Boyd for further contact with Vincent Skilbeck in the race just gone. I love this camera. It really goes to show, like, Watkins Glen is a big circuit. Let's not get crossed up here. It's a massive place, and this layout of the circuit nearly 4 kilometers long. So it's no tiny little run around, but the fact that you're able to fit it all in like this in upstate New York in a camera frame certainly says something. And it looks like such a simple track from the air, doesn't it? But when you get down to brass tacks on the tarmac, it's anything but.
And we're facing southeast here from the northwest corner of the racetrack. So from the town of Watkins Glen in the direction of Binghamton, home of the Binghamton Rumble Ponies minor league baseball team, whose mascot is a horse wearing a helmet with a baseball bat that it looks like it's going to hurt you with.
Well,
and boxing gloves. It's a horse with a helmet and boxing gloves.
And a baseball bat?
It's a busy pony.
Yeah. No, that's an awful lot of work for a horse to do. Horses have worked hard enough through human history. Give that man a break. Vlasblom, meanwhile, has been given a 5-second penalty from Split 2 for his contact with Billy Mole on the final lap, and it looks to me like that might lose him a couple of positions. Might give the position back to Ocean Colangelo from that race's results. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to be seeing a few more of those messages before things get started here for qualifying at Watkins Glen. And in terms of qualifying, it's going to be the same as per usual for V8SCOPS. 2 parts to the qualifying session. There will be an initial 15-minute session with the Split 2 podium plus half of the Split 1 field that got in through pre-qualifying. And there'll be a 5-minute break and then another 15-minute session to get things going for the top half of the pre-qualifiers for Split 1. Actually, not quite a 5-minute break. Since this is a multi-race server, there's going to be a hard cut to the end of qualifying, so race control is going to let Group 2 out a bit early so they can get all of their respective laps in and get a full 15 minutes to do it.
Pretty easy to calculate the timing with a lap just over a minute.
David has shared the Binghamton Rumble Ponies team logo in our Discord chat, and yeah, I can definitely see that it is what you describe. Okay, that's
that's the team logo, but you need to find a picture of the mascot, because the mascot's got boxing gloves.
Yeah, righto. Yep, Jay's going to be finding it. Can't wait to see what we've got in store for us yet to come. We only have a minute left here in practice. Final preparations being done by the teams. Anderson still topping the practice standings ahead of Madison Down. Lachlan Capel for Evolution Racing Team has found his way into that 4th spot there. Jake Maloney just putting in a 1 minute 10.2 to put himself back up to P2. And okay, looks like we may have a picture of that mascot. How is he grabbing on to the baseball bat with the boxing gloves, is my question.
And why do the boxing gloves need thumbs when I've got to assume it's hoofs in there, but I know nothing about baseball, boxing, or horses, so I'm way out of my element.
I mean, horses will kick you if you approach them from behind, so surely the horse should be a kickboxer.
Well, apparently the horse will punch you if you approach it from the front, so careful on all angles on that one.
Very dangerous horse. I want to stay well away from him. Good thing we're on the other side of the world from this area of upstate New York. Jay's just confirmed for us in the background, the horse does have thumbs if the mascot costume is anything to go by. Well, we'll put that discussion behind us because cars are coming out now for the first group of qualifying. Positions 18 to 34 in pre-qualifying plus the Split 2 podium, and leading the charge out of pit lane is Lachlan Capel. Tell you what, with Capel's pace in practice, I'm expecting him to be a contender for the top spot in this first group.
So what's the run plan here? Is it just the 2 flying laps on the tyres? Will they hold on for more? Can you back off 1 lap, cool them, and go again? How much fuel do you want to carry? The good thing though, with a relatively quick lap, is you can, squeeze in a pit stop. The out laps and in laps are going to be, obviously very quick at just a minute or so. So the amount of time allotted, you should be able to work out a run plan that gives you plenty of opportunities. It's not like doing 1 qualifying lap in a 30-minute session of the Nordschleifer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the Evolution Racing Team trio leading the charge here. Lachlan Capel, Matthew Bowler, and Hayden Veld up in that line. Corey Preston trailing and heading the next group of cars on the circuit. Plenty of experienced hands in these cars at the moment, and majority Mustangs from what I can see. Jackson Dial, the first of our Camaros there, leading his fellow Orbit Drop Bear car of Tyson Broad, with Scott Gamble right in the middle of it between them.
Evolution Racing Team have got a couple Rumble ponies of their own here in this one, and qualifying, that's all fair game out there, but of course, as always, an off-track in a qualifying session disallows that lap time. So you do need to be careful with your track limits here to keep some tyres on the curb. Same with turn 1. But the exit of the outer loop, it's NASCAR rules out there. We're about to see some of our first lap times.
So wait for those times to pop in. Looks like Veld, the quickest of them here at the end of that trio. 1:10.1 the pace setting time. Bowler and O'Reilly in second and third. Capel fourth. Borg puts himself in the top 5. Corey Preston's first lap good enough for 6th. Baker, Gamble, Sapstead, Broad, and Campbell the remainder of your cars here. Now Jake Maloney, expected him to be in Group 1, but he did not do a fast enough lap time to get into that top group. Regardless, this is a good opportunity for him to really get that fast time down. 1:10.2, up to second behind Hayden Veld there.
Here's a list of drivers that have completed a flying lap that didn't count because of track limits. Matthew Hansford-Taylor, Matt Morris, Joshua Horton, and Jackson Dial. So you would have seen there that Dial does not have a time, but he's been out here since the beginning of the session. His first flying lap, obviously had an error and overstepped. So he's going to stay out to try to complete another one while the ERT guys are in after that, and they are going to switch to a new set of tyres. Well, Dial now gets a lap time.
1:10.7, 2/10 off his teammate Tyson Broad. So the issue that you have here is the immutable characteristic of the tyres on these cars, or at least the way it's been for plenty of time now, is that they are at their best when they are completely fresh. You do one lap on them, that's usually all they've got to give you on a qualifying setup. Potentially, there's some tracks and some conditions where 2 or maybe even 3 hot laps is possible, but you put so much heat into these tires already. These cars produce 600 horsepower or thereabouts, locked differential, and they weigh 1.5 tons. So there's a lot of work these tires are doing around here on a circuit with loads of high load corners. So the tires are usually done after that first hot lap. I do believe that Jackson Dial will have to find his way onto getting a good lap.
Yeah.
Initially,
he sort of missed setting a banker lap the first time around. I think he had to. The smart thing to do was to stay out and make sure you set the banker before you then probably switch to just the one flying lap for the rest. That's a pretty hot entry for Leonard there, I think. Or was it Campbell? Dylan O'Shea, perhaps. There's a few drivers getting black flags on pit entry, but I think they basically automatically clear themselves, so you can save time by speeding on pit lane in qualifying?
Question mark?
Yeah. I hesitate to end my questions by saying question, lest I wake up one day and I'm on the Ferrari pit wall. But yeah, I'm sort of thinking out loud, thinking through that process where in the qualifying session, if you get a black flag for speeding on pit entry, but then you use that extra speed to get to your pit box quicker, and then jump out of the car and jump back into a new car that clears the black flag. Does that work?
I can't say. I've never tried that myself. Maybe the drivers know a bit more than us in that respect. Well,
Because I'm thinking if I save 3 or 4 seconds on my in-lap, I might be able to squeeze one more flying lap into the constrained session. Then you might go and deliberately do that consistently throughout this session to just save you 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and that might be the difference that has you out on track with a new set of boots. When it matters, maybe a quali cloud comes across on this partly cloudy day, and they are all, many of them improving their next runs right now. Tunnel is changing.
certainly is. Big leap up to 9th for William Sapstead. Jake Maloney gets into 2nd. He's improved to within 300ths of Hayden Veld's fastest lap time thus far. On board with Rain Campbell, who's going at a bit of a slower pace on the way out of turn 1 here. Might be field of view messing with me there.
No, I think backed this off. It's an in-lap now.
Yeah. One performance racing car following the Summit Sim Sports machine. Plenty of very nice liveries out there. Lockhart Brownlee for Orbit Drop Bear. Had a brilliant looking Anzac livery on the car for his supports exploits last night. Currently 12th, getting within 3/10 of the provisional fastest time for now. And Dial's made a bit of an improvement, same as Horton, I believe. Dial 15th with the 110.5. And that's the next lap.
Black flag
done there.
on pit entry.
Oh, yeah.
Leading on pit lane, you know. Jake Maloney too, we're all doing it. It's the cool thing. Because we suffer no consequences from it, and it actually saves us some time.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I'm going to monitor here what Jake Maloney does, because that black flag is still there for him. He's going to pull into the lane as Lockie Brownlee starts up his lap there. Maloney escaped out and has jumped back in, and the black flag has indeed cleared. That's what tends to happen. I've noticed that every time that I've sped on pit exit in a practice session. You know, you get that black flag, but then you escape back to the lane, and it'll immediately clear for you. So I think that is what's going on there. Of course, in V8SCOPS, you have to make it back to the pits under your own power and stop in your pit box, much like how it works in the real world. So yeah, any advantage you can gain within those parameters is probably worth taking in a championship like this. Let's see what Brownlee will be able to do here through the final corner. Got a 110.4 on the board for the moment. Needs to gain a bit to try and catch on to the top 10. Unfortunately, that lap is not an improvement, and you know what?
It's a push lap.
Yeah, it's come at a good time too, because you can see that a cloud has fallen over the circuit. It's a lot darker out there. That's going to bring the track temperature down some. It was what, 30-something degrees at the start of the session. It's fallen down to 27.
Yeah, and this is kind of a late afternoon qualifying session as well, so shadow's getting longer. Cloud coming across. The sectors look like Jacob O'Reilly is 5th. He's going to go up through the S's, and it's just on the exit of turn 4 here. The timing loop is about there. Triggers the first one, a 10th short of his best. Bowler is hot right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, certainly is. See if he makes any improvements. The cars are looking very smooth out there. They're not struggling on the exits as much as I saw them before. Yeah, Bowler looking good here. 900ths up on his lap time here. See what O'Reilly will be able to do as he goes to the end of the circuit. And you saw a race control message pop up at the top of the screen earlier on in this lap for O'Reilly as he sets a 110.4. That's slower than his previous best. Wait to see Bowler come across the line, and it's a 1:10.26. So it looks like actually a 3:2. It looks like there hasn't been much improvements here with this cloud, but Cody Deeth escaped without permission in this qualifying session, and he'll be getting a rear of grid start as a result. Now, we know a lot about Cody Deeth from his previous exploits on the sort of special events world stage. Formerly of Williams Esports, I believe, if not still with them now. And he's definitely a quick driver. That rear grid start's going to be a little blow to his night.
Yeah, so is he a driver from the next group who's accidentally gone on track now and towed, and that's the...
Maybe. Because yeah, it looks like he has. He is actually classified as having set at least a sector or something in this qualifying session. As having left pit lane, yeah. But yeah, I considering the pace that Cody usually has, I wouldn't have expected him to be in this group anyway.
Seen qualifying start and forgotten what group he was, and therefore he's gone, oh wait, no, this isn't me, and towed, but it's going to basically remove him from qualifying, and he's removed from qualifying whichever group he was meant to be. I'm just speculating what might have happened, because as you prefaced it, that's not how you pronounce that word, he's a really, strong driver that you would not be surprised to see in the top 10 and top 5 on the podium in this top split, and he's made a pretty basic clerical administrative error here that's going to start him from back of the grid for what's a sprint race, effectively.
Yeah. Dylan O'Shea, another driver who is looking for some good pace here today, not able to match his fastest lap. We hear that Cody Deeth pre-qualified in 9th. So yeah, he was part of Group 2 and came out too early. So that's going to settle that for now. Keep an eye on Ewan Baker as he exits turn 1 here. Currently 8th, 1:10.3 his quickest time thus far. Now, what he needs to gain to move into the top 5 is a mere 0.04 of a second. Jake O'Reilly with a 1:10.344, and it's a 3:83 for Ewan Baker. But where do you gain that time? I think it's mostly in the way that you enter the bus stop here and carry your way over those curbs. You don't want too much oversteer, but you do want some rotation over those brutal sawteeth.
Yeah, everyone's first sector, which is breaking into turn 1 and then climbing up the S's, are all pretty close, but then you start to see a 1/10 of a second difference in the middle sector, 1/10 of a second difference in the final sector. So certainly inner loop is massively challenging to get on the right line and, flow your speed and then set yourself up for the outer loop carousel. And then in the final sector, turn 6 is very quick, and turn 7, it's got a wall on the outside. It's the closest you get to the wall. Whoa!
Look at the suspension.
This is a 3D curbs track, isn't it?
It is. Man, big old rubber dub on your way through there, as it looks like that's Maloney re-entering pit lane again.
I think they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah. Just how hard can we push pit lane entry? Yeah, big old slip and slide from the ERT trio, who are playing the team game pretty well. Oh dear, there's still an O'Shea that's gone for a little adventure. And a popped engine for, I believe that's Brownlee. Some drama here at the last few minutes, or the checkered flag rather, of the first qualifying session. That's everyone coming into the lane. But yeah, ERT have played the game pretty well, I reckon. They went out there, all three of them together, assisting each other in the slipstream, and they've granted themselves the top 3 provisional spots here in the first part of qualifying.
Yeah, great teamwork from the first group with Haydenfeld up top.
Yes, my apologies. I got the teams mixed up a bit there. Veld and Bowler first and third, with Capel in 5th. That's still a great run from the ERT trio, but they are split by Jake Maloney and Kobe Jones in 2nd and 4th. O'Reilly and Horton 6th and 7th for Vermilion. Good job from them. Ewan Baker up into 8th. Wasn't able to improve on his final lap. Lockhart Brownlee managing 9th, ahead of the most experienced driver, I believe, in that top 10, Corey Preston, who's been a part of V8SCOPS for the longest time. Tyson Broad, Scott Gamble, William Sapstead, Brian Borgen, Ryan Campbell will round out your top 15. Then O'Shea, unable to get a time he was happy with, and unfortunately had a crash on his final run. Jackson Dial couldn't get a lap together. Hansford Taylor and Matthew Morris rounding out the 19 cars to set times. And, you know, I might be sounding a bit harsh there, saying couldn't get a lap together, still getting within 3/10 of the fastest time around Watkins Glen, and cars that are as hard to drive as these is definitely nothing to sneeze at. There's a review of the temperature. And, well, the track temp has steadily been going down for a bit, but it looks like it's just ticking up again as the sun is back out.
Yeah, sun's out, and so are the drivers. We're 3 wide on pit lane.
Everybody waiting for the call of the green flag right now. Here we go. So leading the way out of pit lane is Byron Phillips in that Eclipse car. Next in the queue, Madison Down, followed by Brady Myers, Sam Blacklock, and Josh Anderson. So TTR in a quartet there. Emily Jones, affiliated with Trans-Tasman Racing, is out there with them as well. Zach Rattray White, a long way behind his new Eclipse teammates, up at the front of this queue, but he'll definitely get a good slipstream off the TTR cars in front if he stays in touch.
I looked it up, and I think it's actually not 3D curving here.
Huh.
I think the list of tracks at the moment is Jerez, Aragon, Sandown, VIR, Winton, Rudskogen, Hockenheim, Barcelona, and Road America.
Well, this is certainly an interesting circumstance, as on board with Kurt Stenberg through the final corner. I mean, you can clearly see that there's shadows on those saw teeth on the curbs there, so I'm not sure.
Another one of these things where you've got to go 18 months back in the release notes to figure it out.
Yeah, certainly do. Up through the S's with Stenny, the most experienced driver here in the V8SCOPS series. Catching a little bit of slipstream on the way out of the S's here. Got Jordan Ross up ahead of him, who was up near the top in practice. Probably not the greatest amount of slipstream he could have gotten, but in this early part of the session, it's all about bankers. It's all about making sure that you can at least get a lap time on the board. Struggling a little bit with oversteer on the exit of turn 5.
A few cars moving around a little bit. That's more like understeer on the way in, oversteer on the way out. Oh, it's tough at the moment. Josh Anderson could go all the way to provisional pole. Doesn't quite. His first lap, he only goes to 7th.
James Scott, meanwhile, up into 4th. That's working out well for the reigning champion of the series. Kobe Jones putting himself in 5th place there. Madison Down and Josh Anderson 7th and 8th provisionally. And Robbie Gibbs, one of the last drivers we're waiting on a lap time from here. Also see that Corey McFarlane was not able to get a time on the board there. Must have gotten an off track somewhere around the lap.
Yep. Him and Robbie Gibbs and Thomas Freeman and Cody Death, depending on how you measure it.
There we are. Gibbs finishes the lap and puts himself into 8th. And just to give you a sense for how close this field is, yeah, this is only the first stanza of laps that we've seen from Group 2, but the gap from Veld to Maloney is just under 0.03 of a second. Then I'll read out the gaps through the rest of the top 10. 200ths, 7,000ths, 200ths, 300ths, 4,000ths, 200ths, 100th, and 300ths. That's how close the gaps are between the cars in the top 10. And it's basically like that all the way down the field. Adam Briggs and Rehan Lianage separated 24th and 25th by only 0.03 of a second. This is one of those circuits where you're going to see close gaps no matter what.
Can we get 3 cars tied for pole? That'd be fun. And think about how improbable that Jerez 1997 3 cars tied for pole thing was. You and I, between us, have seen thousands and thousands of races. And we've never seen that on iRacing, have we? 3 cars tied for pole to the 1,000th of a second.
Yeah, it's such a statistical near impossibility that yeah, we have yet to see it. I mean, like I've been commentating sim racing since 2013.
Two-way tie for pole, and you and I have also done lots and lots of races. I think I've got close to 1,000 officials, and I think I've probably commentated on about the same number again.
Yeah, I think especially in recent years, the number of races I've done versus races I've called is certainly in the favour of the latter, but oversteer for Lianage there out of the last corner. I do hope that day comes eventually when we do see a big tie for at least one of the positions in this field. Because if anywhere is going to have it happen, it's going to be V8SCOPS. You know, the cars are so hard to drive, so hard to go fast in, and keep that pace consistent throughout even a single lap, let alone an entire race, that you see talent coming to the fore, you see tiny little mistakes adding up to put someone down maybe by 100th or so.
Sun's back out, and there's no purple sectors for this qualifying group all of a sudden. Everyone's gone to a new set of tyres, everyone's done a banker lap and is now going even more max attack, more risk. And Madison Down might yet improve. James Scott is not, and he's the highest placed driver from this quali group at the moment.
Lianage has had oversteer at almost every single corner exit on this lap. And I think that's the track temperature playing its part there. Ebbing and flowing by only about half a degree or so in the last 20 minutes, but that can make all the difference.
We're going to talk about Emily Jones going to 6th.
Yeah, we probably should. That's a solid lap from Jones.
Just pipping Kobe Jones.
Yes, but as far as I'm aware, they are not related.
There's a lot of Joneses.
Oh, yeah.
There's Ryan Jones. He's not related to either of those two either.
No. And as far as I'm aware, Griffin Gardner isn't related to me, even though he's the only other person I've met that actually has the last name spelt the same way as mine. In any case, Jones comes back into the pits here and will be rightfully very happy with that performance there. Still got 9 minutes to go in the session. Plenty of opportunity to improve further. She just needs to catch slipstream from the right person.
none of them related to Bradley Jones. It's a big wide world of racing out there.
Big wide world of Joneses.
Boy.
A bit hard to keep up with the Joneses when there's so many of them.
No, but you can keep up by calling Dr. Jones. Or maybe you can't, because the next line is imploring Dr. Jones to pick up now, which implies that Dr. Jones sometimes doesn't.
He's at the Jones family reunion. It's a pretty big one. Well, Josh Anderson back out on the circuit there, and we saw Sam Blacklock going around too. And, oh dear, a couple of problems there for the Aussie Racing Cars champion in the number 36. We are all only as good as our internet at some stages. Meanwhile, here's James Scott, one of the first times we've seen him on camera here, but he's been out there in the session doing well enough for 5th place at the moment in the Chiefs Esports Club number 1. In fact, being the only Chiefs car out there for the last round or two. At round 1, he did have company, but thus far he has been driving solo for rounds 2 and 3. Let's see if he can improve here on this lap.
A bit of rev limiter in 5th gear for a couple of cars going into turn 1. Beautiful sound.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, I had a go when officials came here a couple of months ago. I had a go at driving around the track, seeing how fast I could go, and that's what I found. It was often faster to actually stay in 5th gear on the way into the first corner, because if you went up into 6th, somehow it ended up lengthening the braking zone a bit, and you know, you couldn't quite get it slowed up for turn 1 properly. Scott is having some trouble there on the exit. It's a bowl, that corner. A little bit of banking towards the end of it, but you got to really balance the throttle through there. See if this brilliant Camaro of our reigning champion has anything more in it to break into the top 3, maybe grab provisional pole. Clean exit from the final corner. He's chasing a 110.1, but it's not going to be enough. A 110.5 for Scott. Man, there's not many improvements being made here in this late stage of the session for the front runners, but Brady Myers getting into the top 10, Jake Burton improving to 22nd, and Sam Blacklock starting another lap as well here. Now this is a nice rare last name.
Yeah, it feels like it'd be unlikely that the top qualifying time from the first group still stands for pole, but the track conditions, the teamwork from ERT that we really haven't seen from any teammates in this split, maybe that's the way to go. Hayden Veld in that time, and Jake Maloney's time as well, looking very, very tough to beat. Josh Anderson, yeah, some of his sectors intrigue me because he's the fastest driver from this group now. 20, so sort of 40-ish thousandths of a second away from the outright pole. He hasn't had really any purple first sectors, but the second and third sectors he's been super duper quick. So that's where he surprised me earlier on. Is it didn't look like he was on for a good lap.
There we go. Look at that from Blacklock. That's a 110.7. That is a new provisional pole time. We were just watching a brilliant lap there, and we had no idea. Did you see how he was almost like skirting the grass coming down to the line?
Reminds me of some Porsche Esports Super Cup action that I've seen.
Well, Blacklock taking us all by surprise there. Fantastic time, but only 9 thousandths of a second faster than Hayden Veld. That might be the cue that everyone else needs to really pull out all the stops here, because they know that there's more time in the track now. See if Byron Phillips can break into the top 30 here, coming up to the end of the lap. 1:10.5 being his fastest. He'll commit. Kuznetsov getting a black flag. I think that might have been for pit entry. As Phillips comes to the line, and that is a 1:10.3 there. That'll jump him all the way up to 18th. So, yeah, it looks like the track is looking good here in the final few minutes of the session. Zach Rattray-White up from 26th to the top 10. There's some big improvements happening right now, so we'll need to keep a close eye on this timing tower.
I think this is Anderson beginning a flying lap. Madison down in front of him. Whoa.
He's certainly no stranger to ripping it up the S's at Watkins Glen as Madison down. He's won more races here than I can care to count in the official series and another series alike. Trailing the brakes a bit. Jake Burton behind him, I believe, being dragged along. Looks like Burton faster in the first sector. We'll see what Madison will be able to do here as Sector 2 ends, and looks like not valid Sector 2 for Jake Burton. I think he might have gotten an off track on that lap. Well, now let's see if Down will be able to break through into the top 5 here, maybe beat James Scott. 1:10.3 for Madison Down. That's not going to be enough, not an improvement, but Burton behind improves. That lap was valid. It's good enough for 4th.
Well, shuffling as Robbie Gibbs goes to 8th. His right hand Leonage, who we've rode on board with at moments, stays 17th. Beginning the lap. Probably be the last one that you get to do.
Yeah. Leonage I'm very interested in because he's the guy who's second place in the championship. Only 17th for now. An improvement by only a 1/10 of a second would really shoot him up this field. Stenberg, meanwhile, bringing TTR number 47 round on this lap. 1:10.3 for him. And it just goes to show how much of a difference it makes if you can only gain a few hundredths. That's worth a few positions in many cases. TTR across the line. Any improvements here? Stenberg setting a 1:10.2. And that's going to put him all the way up to 4th. Massive improvement from Stenny. He'll be happy with that. Let's see what Leonage can do. Exit the final corner. No, he's going to go for the pit lane. He'll have to settle for 18th. At best here. And the checkered flag will soon be out. Blacklock coming round here. We'll see if he commits to the end of the lap. What I'm so intrigued by in this session is that Veld and Maloney's times from Group 1 have held up. They will start 2nd and 3rd thanks to that. I mean, what a session. Like we were so down in the dumps, I think, David, thinking that maybe there wouldn't be any improvements from anybody thanks to the track conditions, but then just a raft of massive improvements right at the end.
Yeah, and so close. Your top 5 are 500ths of a second. Gonna get to the grid, and as we, look at the paint schemes, look at the drivers, look at the order, I implore you to look at how fractional these timing gaps are.
Indeed. Let's go through the grid. Sam Blacklock, pole position by only 9,000ths of a second over Hayden Veld. They are your front row. Jake Maloney in 3rd alongside Kurt Stenberg. Only, that's what, 7,000ths of a second separating them? Jake Burton and Josh Anderson will round out your top 6. Another 7,000ths of a second gap between those two cars. These gaps are insane. Matthew Bowler and James Scott, the reigning champions, starting on the 4th row. Robbie Gibbs and Emily Jones rounding out your top 10. They'll both be ecstatic with those times. Kobe Jones starts 11th alongside 3-time series champ Madison Down.
So Zach Rattray White will start from 13th, with Lachlan Capel in 14th, Brady Myers in 15th, Rick Kuznetsov is hardly more than a tenth of a second away from pole position, but starts in 16th. And then Jacob O'Reilly and Rehan Leonage are the next row. Joshua Horton's in 19th, Byron Phillips in 20th, Ewan Baker in 21st, Lockhart Brownlee in 22nd, Corey Preston in 23rd, and Tyson Broad in 24th is 0.24 of a second away from pole.
In 25th place, Jordan Ross of Synergy Sim Racing, starting alongside V8 Vets front-runner Scott Gamble. Sapstead and Borg will be your 14th row, with Ryan Gamble and Adam Briggs rounding out your top 30. Dylan O'Shea starting down in 31st. Won't be too happy with how that session's gone for him. Neither will Corey McFarlane in 32nd. Jackson Dial and Matthew Hansford-Taylor on the 17th row. Matt Morris, the third place finisher in Split 2, will start 35th alongside Cody Deeth, who was excluded from qualifying in the Eclipse Sim Sports car. Thomas Freeman in the session as well, having set times in practice. He will be the 37th and last car to take to the grid. Well, just a few seconds remaining, around about 25 or so, before we get things started here. Sam Blacklock on pole in a V8 SCOPS event for the first time in a while. I actually can't remember the last time he was on pole, though I'm sure he has been. Imola 2018 was the last time we saw Sam Blacklock starting at the front of a V8 SCOPS field. This is going to be a very significant performance for him. And for Evolution Racing Team, first time they've been up this high in a very long time. Hayden Veld starting alongside him. Reminder, it's going to be a 28-lap race. And one compulsory pit stop between laps 2 and 27. 51% fuel tank restriction. Burn through some of that fuel to get off to the start here. The green flag flies, but Blacklock has jumped the start. Oh no, he's completely bottled that one. He's going to get a massive black flag thanks to that one. Hayden Veld will defend the effective lead of the race here from Kurt Stenberg. A great start from the Trans-Tasman cars behind as they run 2 by 2 up towards the S's. Clean start for the rest of the field, it looks like, as Maloney is going to take that second effective place from Kurt Stenberg. Well, Hayden Veld has got a train of Trans-Tasman cars behind him, and his teammates are together behind them. They'll have to sort themselves out here at the inner loop before they can really get things going here. It looks like Josh Anderson still having internet issues, and that's caused an incident there. Anderson around, his internet couldn't hold up. Matthew Bowler didn't realise where the Aussie Racing Cars champion was, and that's going to be Anderson out of the running for now. Blacklock and Rattray White both jumping the start there. That is disastrous for our pole sitter in particular.
There's a randomized countdown and sequence, and I think it held them a little longer than some of them were expecting. Blacklock also maybe didn't have his clutch right because he sort of crept a little bit, and then I think once he realized he jumped it, and this is the penalty for the 2 drivers with a jump start. So we made sure that he jumped good and proper, rather than getting penalised and getting no advantage.
Yeah, commiserations to Blacklock and Rattray White, but up the front, Hayden Veld leads the way for Evolution Racing Team, being chased down by the Trans-Tasman Racing trio of Jake Maloney, Kurt Stenberg and Jake Burton, all of whom have had success at this track in the past. We'll have to wait and see what kind of response Robbie Gibbs and Matthew Bowler have, because they're leading the next train from 6th on back. And there's the jump start from Rattray White. It was just before everyone else went. Wasn't as egregious as Blacklock's jump start, but still counts for the same penalty.
Which both of them have served. 26 second drive-through penalty here. Sam Blacklock qualified on pole, but he runs 35th now. Cody Deeth, who was excluded from qualifying, is in 26th. So, I mean, for all of the qualifying heroics, Sam Blacklock is now behind someone who had no qualifying. It's so tough to see.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, hopefully there's some kind of recovery that can be made. Brady Myers with the fastest lap of the race down in 11th spot. He is at the rear of that train for 5th place as the Trans-Tasman cars get ever closer to Hayden Veld. Now's the point where you start seeing that super speedway kind of racing where you don't want to be leading. You also don't want to go side by side for too long because that'll end up costing you time through the corners. Get into the rhythm, see where your pace is at, and then decide whether or not you want to make those passes.
Absolutely gigantic fuel tanks for the newest generation of these touring cars, but chopped down to 51% for these sprint races. So we really expect the critical lap number to be in a 28-lap race as Jackson Dial has got some significant dramas in the penultimate corner, body panels off his car.
Oh dear, that's a huge crash for the Orbit Drop Bear Camaro. So number 200 is going to have to come into the pit lane instantly from that. Looks like some damage to the rear as well. The first real crash that we've seen in this race so far. And the fastest lap will go to Sam Blacklock. He is immediately on the pump here to try and recover. And oh my lord, that was hardly the fault of Jackson Dial, I think. Ewan Baker, the other car involved in that incident. That's something that you tend to see happening coming into the penultimate corner at this track. So Josh Anderson has retired from the event here, and I don't think he'll be too happy with how things have gone here. Hardware and internet issues have put paid to his race, so hopefully he can get them fixed and we'll see him back out there next round. This is the onboard from Baker, and oh, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't entirely Baker's fault, but I mean, there was a tiny bit of overlap. Question is, was it enough for Baker to be justified sticking his nose in there?
Yeah, Baker's nose was there the whole length of the straight. Baker got a better run off the outer loop, and because of where he started to get that run, he was never going to be able to get to the left-hand side of the other driver. So he goes to the right-hand side and tries to claim that part of the racetrack with half an inch of overlap. And yeah, I mean, what's your other option is back out of it and try to Daniel Ricciardo a switch back to the inside and outbrake him there. He was trying to carry his momentum in his run to make some kind of a battle happen. He was only ever going to be able to get to the right-hand side of the other car who already covered off the left. But yeah, it becomes so low percentage this early in the first of two races that I'd have backed out, but I wouldn't be top split, so...
True. Well, the incident involving the 072 and the 543, so that's Scott Gamble and Adam Briggs. It looks like they came together on lap 2. We did not see that on the broadcast, so we shall see what race control decides from that. Potentially race control will be investigating the Ewan Baker, Jackson Dial incident as well. Flick back here to Corey Preston, who's down in 22nd at the moment. He was running in 19th at the end of the lap, so evidently there's been something that's gone wrong for him there in turn 1, or maybe up through the S's, that has cost him a few spots. He is now mired back in this pack, headed up by Corey McFarlane, William Sapstead, and Jordan Ross.
How come admiring is a good thing, but being mired is a bad thing? Let's have a look here. So turn 1, getting down the inside there, good braking opportunity, and because there's a little bit of a camber to the road, I think he's ended up that sort of car width wide of really hooking the good line through turn 1, and fine margins in qualifying, fine margins in the race, that just a little bit wide through turn 1. 2 to 3 positions in a quick flash.
Yeah, and for William Sapstead, who was the car making the maneuver, well, yeah, he got by Preston, but then Ross got by him on the exit of the corner because he was compromised too. So ultimately, it's a net zero move there for William Sapstead. Further up, 14th place, Rehan Leonage. He's been steadily finding his way up through the field in these first 6 or so laps. And he's chasing down Lachlan Capel here, who has not moved much of anywhere in the opening laps. Got Rick Kuznetsov in front here, leading this sort of sub-pack. And Kuznetsov having a good race as well thus far, up 4 places from where he started. The lead's on as well. Maloney closing in on Hayden Veld here. And it's a bit of a tighter line for the Trans-Tasman Mustang. The ERT Mustang might have to start looking in the mirrors.
Yeah, so with this pressure on Veld from a whole group of Trans-Tasman racing cars, he needs his teammates to get into the fight, and that's what they'll do. Look back there, side by side through turn 1. It's 3 ERT versus 3 TTR heading up the hill.
It's 2017, 2018 all over again.
This is pressing a toe.
Is he? Oh no!
I think so.
Oh dear, yeah, Sam Blacklock has stopped there. He's towed back to pit lane. I don't know if permission was given there.
Race control we're talking to, I think he might have
Yeah.
like blown the motor on a downshift and parked it out of the way or something.
Yeah, he pulled off in the boot section, which is way off the racetrack, so race control would have deemed that a safe place to put the car. Unfortunately, it looks like the engine popped for Blacklock on the way into the inner loop, so it was a downshift problem there for Sam. I mean, from starting on pole to jumping the start to blowing the engine right here, this is not the way Blacklock would have wanted his night to start. Conveniently though, the full layout of the circuit is right ahead of him at this point, and he can just go straight off at the exit of the outer loop, and that is sufficiently out of the way. Well, back to live pictures and the battle for the lead. It's a good run up through the S's for Jake Maloney. Is it going to be enough to have a go at Hayden Veld? This is the view from Maloney's perspective, just showing how much speed they carry. The top speed for Veld was 270 k's an hour before they got to the braking zone of the inner loop. That's how much speed they've got around this place.
High-speed trap I can see is 279 for Corey McFarlane, so yeah, decent speeds. And that's after they need to breathe the throttle a little bit coming up through the S's, and then it's uphill towards that braking zone. Unbroken train from 1st to 18th at the moment. Do we dare to think we might be past the critical lap number and there's a few drivers that hit and then try to anticipate a safety car?
Oh dear, Corey Preston turned around there. And Lockhart Brownlee involved. Brian Borg will try and take advantage of that as, yes, a change for the lead. Maloney's gone for it on Hayden Veld at turn 1, and it looks like Kurt Stenberg wanted to follow him through, but couldn't quite get it done.
Yeah, you would have thought the TTR train would have looked sort of railroaded Hayden Veld, but he's slotted back into 2nd place behind Jake Maloney. And his teammates, Robbie Gibbs, Matt Bowler, look a lot closer. Everyone looks a lot closer in the top 6 all of a sudden. This is how pull out to the inside. Once you've got your nose there, it's a little bit like turn 2 Griffin's Bend at Mount Panorama, where there is a significant advantage to the inside lane. So if you're only halfway up down the inside, you're still entitled to the space of the inside line and the extra grip and camber it entails.
Yeah, for sure. Well executed move by Maloney, and good damage limitation from Hayden Veld as well. He could have left the door open for Stenberg and Burton to get through, but he drove well to eliminate that possibility. Jordan Ross, 19th at the moment, heading up that battle still with Corey McFarlane and William Sapstead in behind him as we have our first pitter, and it's Madison down.
Of others coming as well, so Cody Deeth, Lockhart Brownlee, a few of those drivers that have something to gamble to get their stock cleared and then see if safety car timing or an undercut or anything just creates an opportunity for them, rather than doing what they've always done, getting what they're always going to get, which was something in the 20s or a position around there.
Madison Down was running, I believe, 10th. At the time that he went for the pit lane. So Let's see if this works out for him. Almost at the halfway point of the race, should be able to get an undercut at least over the drivers around him. But the problem with pitting out a sequence at a track like Watkins Glen is you lose the advantage of the slipstream. These will have to be some super quick laps in clean air from Madison down in order to get the advantage here.
Well, Blacklock had the fastest lap of the race in clean air.
He did. That's a very good
But
point.
you cool your tyres off a lot with the drive-through. There's going to be some passes on track. There's going to be more pit callers. Emily Jones, James Scott, and Kobe Jones.
Yeah, these were the drivers right ahead of Down when he came into the lane. No response from the leaders up the front, but things are starting to get interesting in the pack behind. Brady Myers, Lachlan Capel, Rehan Leonage, all behind Rick Kuznetsov here. Kuznetsov finding his way up to 7th in the midst of this pit cycle. Looks like Jones is away and she's going to lead the way out of the pit lane here. James Scott right alongside her. Madison Down, meanwhile, exits turn 1 and is able to leapfrog all 3 of them.
It's funny how there were 2 Joneses on pit lane, but I knew exactly which one you meant because you said her. Just
Yes,
a
indeed.
little quirk of top split V8SCOPS. So clearly a reaction to Down from a lot of other quick competitors. It's a challenging pit entry here, and you're going to have a whole heap more go for it, almost running up the back of each other here as they slow down to the pit lane speed limit. Goodness knows that they weren't practicing that during qualifying, and it's 64 kilometers an hour here. I thought it used to be 72 kilometer an hour pit lane speed limit at Watkins Glen.
I believe it did used to be. I have some kind of faded VHS memory of that.
Is it different circuit config to circuit config here, like it is at Spa-Francorchamps, where the endurance pits are 60 but the Grand Prix pits are 80, but it's the same pit lane?
I don't know. That might have to be a question for later.
If Southpaw Racer doesn't know, no one does.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I appreciate the compliment. I think that was a compliment. Top of the screen, Madison Down, fastest lap of the race. We also noticed in that pit cycle that Robbie Gibbs overshot his pit box, and so he's lost a bit of crucial time to Kobe Jones, Matthew Bowler, and James Scott. Bowler has come out right in the middle of this fight here between Kobe and James, and well, the tyres are really heated up now for Kobe Jones. Bowler with the advantage of slightly fresher ones, though, as here comes another raft of cars. Maloney, Veld, Stenberg. It looks like Kuznetsov coming in as well. I see that Rehan Leonage and Jordan Ross are in too. Gamble, Hansford Taylor, our split 2 winner, is in the pits as well.
On that front halfway, and we get the most pit callers we've had on any lap, including drivers from right up front in this one.
What I'm noticing from this is they're peeling away in groups of 4 to 5 cars mostly. That's going to leave Brady Myers on his own out the front, and Byron Phillips a second or so behind. There is the fight on through for Madison Down. He is going to get ahead of Jake Maloney and Jake Burton. This has been a perfectly executed run here from car number 77. I think that decision to pit early was probably the best we've seen all night.
He's had a super quick stop too, so again, this is one of those races where you're only required by the compulsory pit stop to go up on the jacks. You're not required to actually change the tyres, so sometimes it can be a bit quicker to take the fuel only. Byron Phillips has a black flag. He's sped on pit entry.
Oh, no.
64 kilometers an hour.
That is... Byron Phillips. Heart goes out to you, and it looks like Matthew Hansford Taylor has a black flag as well. So it's all gone wrong for our split 2 winner and Byron Phillips, who was having a pretty solid race. Down, meanwhile, going to continue on his merry way at the front of this pack. Zach Rattray White, having served his drive-through already for jumping the start, is out in front of these guys, and we'll be expecting him to fall quite a ways behind them, if not maybe equal. I mean, I'm not too sure what the exact pit delta is, but it takes about 37 to 39 seconds for the quick drivers to get from one end of pit lane to the other. Rattray White currently has about 8.5 seconds over Madison Down as things stand. Sapstead will assume the race lead here as Horton, Broad, Ryan Campbell, Brian Borg are the next into the pit lane. So that just leaves Sapstead, Morris, and Freeman left to take their stops here in race 1.
Trains Tasman Racing is back together, and they've executed a masterful pit stop undercut here. It seems like that undercut, the tyre undercut was worth about half a second a lap, and they've done it just right, just in time to catch Veld and a whole bunch of the other ERT cars exposed. And Maloney, Burton, and Down will cycle through to the race lead. They've let, I think Down has just let Burton through as well here.
Yeah, looks like it. Position change between the TTR Camaros. And this is where it happened. Burton pulls out on the way into turn 1, and Down senses, yes, it's probably for the best that I let you go. And we'll see what we can do to stay in touch with Maloney here and consolidate that top 3 lockout that they currently have. James Scott, meanwhile, under pressure from Kurt Stenberg. We have Kobe Jones and Matthew Bowler right behind them as well. Incident between Adam Briggs and Scott Gamble on lap 2. Looks like a racing incident from race control as we finally have Sapstead, Morris, and Freeman finding their way into pit lane. Now, let's not forget, Hayden Veld was with the effective race lead for a time.
Carousel. Okay, car movement. Car stopped in the carousel.
Oh, yeah, that's Briggs. Oh, no. Is this drivetrain issue, suspension damage? He's struggling to get that thing turned around and moving. What happened to him?
Well, there's a checkup here. He goes to the inside of Gamble, turns him around. They interlock, and I reckon that's done suspension damage to the right. That's done some damage against his teammate?
Yeah, that's Baker, I think. Ewan Baker. Oh, no. Well, that puts paid to Adam Briggs's race. And, I mean, commiserations to Baker. He had nothing to do with that.
So he's got an engine, but I think he's only got one-wheel drive, and he's probably done the diff or the transmission or something there.
Yeah, we need to see the other side of the car, I think. That's the only way we'll be able to really tell. Oh, yep. So there we go. The safety car has been called thanks to Adam Briggs being stricken on the exit of the outer loop. Well, I'm just seeing Briggs trying to move on my end. I'll let you know if I see that right rear wheel struggling to move. I mean, it did move, but I think there must be some kind of other issue that car has.
Because when you destroy the engine or stall the car, the flashing yellow light comes on the back. The rain light comes on automatically as a warning. And he hasn't got that. And he seemed to have an engine, but seemed to not have drive. It was somewhere between the back of the crankshaft and the rear wheels. So that narrows it down to the clutch, the torque tube, the differential, the transaxle, the drive shafts.
Yeah.
And other car parts that I know the names of.
Yeah. I mean, there was that initial hit as Gamble spun around. Yeah, there we go. That's Briggs getting off the circuit. But it seems like once he gets onto the wall, the car just refuses to go anywhere. He's trying to get it moving. Yeah, I genuinely don't know. what the deal is there, because from the outside it looks like Briggs may have been able to get it back to pit lane, but the hit that Ewan Baker gave him when he was broadside across the racetrack was frankly insane. It was a huge hit, and it's crumpled in the entire right-hand side of the car. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of drivetrain issue on the Synergy 72.
So we roll behind safety car, and everyone has made their compulsory pit stop in this race. Look at the replay from Ewan Baker's perspective. We're a little unsighted, and then Campbell rolls back, and the teammate rolls onto the racing line as well. And can't dodge both of them. Madison down from 12th on the grid to 3rd. Emily Jones from 10th on the grid to 4th. So both of them have benefited really nicely from pitting exactly when they did. Managed to dodge too much traffic. Managed to get a good little tyre undercut. Looks like we're headed for a wave around right now. And where Cody Death ended up, he's been a roller coaster in this. He was up higher, and now he's back to 29th.
So we're hearing that Cody Death just came in for another splash and dash plus a set of tyres. So only driver aside from Preston, Freeman and Phillips to have visited the pits twice in this race. It intrigues me there. Might we be seeing a late race charge from Cody Death once we get back to green flag?
Yeah, so basically the last 5 cars on the lead lap all went, well, nothing to lose, and the tyres are free.
Certainly no limit on the amount of tyres you can take.
Last V8SCOPS, you and I discussed exactly how much a set of 4 Dunlop slicks actually costs.
Did we?
Yeah, I think I told you that they're $1,800.
Okay.
Which is, you know, sort of like Chernobyl nuclear radiation, not great, not terrible.
I can certainly think of more expensive tyres out there. As there is the wave around, I believe that's Jackson Dial that's been given that. No, it is an Eclipse car.
It's Hansford Taylor.
It is, yeah, Hansford Taylor. My apologies. Well, he'll
yeah, definitely very different colours, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I am getting my Camaros confused on that point. So Hansford Taylor will come back round, assume his place at the rear of the field, and then we'll be able to get back to green flag racing. Now, this gives us a little bit of time to dissect exactly what's going on for Hayden Veld. Remember, he was leading. He was getting he was under a bit of assault from the Trans-Tasman trio,
Yeah,
but through the pit cycle,
he was second.
yeah, but then through the pit cycle, he's fallen behind Jones into 5th. Now, looking at the amount of laps done, it looks like Jones definitely undercut him. So did Madison Down. Veld came in on the same lap as Maloney.
3 laps after Down, 2 laps after Emily Jones. Yeah, same lap as Jake Maloney, who had already passed him on track. And then
So
Jake
maybe-
Burton had a 1-lap undercut on Hayden Veld. So one of them was already done on track, and then Burton, Down, and Jones got Veld with an undercut.
Yeah, all right. So that explains the state of play for ERT number 53 as the safety car pulls away. We're going green at the end of the lap here. And it is a Trans-Tasman 1, 2, 3 at the front of the field. Emily Jones in there as well, could be looking at a podium. See what she can do to keep up with her TTR stablemates as Dan Stevens brings the safety car back in. And Maloney gets up to power as they find their way to the apex of the final corner. Green flag flies and we're away again at the Glen. 9 laps to go. Coming round to 8, Jake Burton following Maloney very closely out of turn 1. James Scott looking to break into the top 5. Further back, keeping an eye on the 92 of Rain Campbell. Got Sapstead for company, Horton up in front. Clean single file up through the S's. And I'm mighty interested to see what Cody Deeth will be able to do from down in 28th position on the freshest tyres in this field. But for now, the battle is on. Jake Burton has won at Watkins Glen before. He wants to get it on his fellow Jake this time.
Incredible intensity around the top 5, but I want to highlight some cars further down that are sort of my ones to watch in these couple of remaining laps. Rehan Leonard had a really long stop, so he's down in 24th, but we know he's a podium pace driver on his day in this championship. And then he had Dylan O'Shea and Jordan Ross, some others outside of the top 10. Could end up being super quick. Leonard, though, I don't know what happened with his pit stop. 19 seconds when everyone else just stops with 10. He's back here in 24th position.
Oh, Burton just tried on Maloney for the lead there. Veld gets the fastest lap. But we also get news of a drive-through penalty for Lockhart Brownlee there for the contact that I saw with Corey Preston. That's what saw Preston spun around at the penultimate corner. But it seems like Jake Maloney is under attack now. Jake Burton has turned up the wick, and he wants that lead. It didn't quite work out for him at turn 1, though. Maloney just over-undered him and got the position right back.
Yeah, so it's on between the teammates that are first, second, and third. Brings Emily Jones and Hayden Feld back into the picture. When we restarted, they didn't all stay particularly too close. Madison down left plenty of space, but this is what happened for the lead. That's in hot, and that's over under. Do that enough times, and you'll knit a sweater.
Yes, but a bunch of race cars dragging thread behind them would certainly make for a very messy racetrack. There's Veld that's Bowler under attack from Kurt Stenberg. Top 7 looking good here for Stenny, who did lose a bit of time in the pit cycle, but is setting about trying to gain it back. Won't be able to take the preferred line into turn 2, though, and Kobe Jones potentially sees an opportunity here, gives Stenny a little hurry up through turn 3.
Great line from Bowler there, and Stenberg caught out in some of the marbles, and a poor line. We had to lift through the tight left-hander coming up through the S's and defending the inner loop. The only real racing line through there is going to keep Cody Jones behind for the moment. A gap forming between your top 6, and this group led by Matt Bowler. The return of Stenny Cam, much to the delight of our loyal V8SCOPS viewers.
Yeah, for sure. You see the deep breaths that Stenny's taking. You mentioned intensity. I think Watkins Glen, one of the most high-intensity tracks to race at in this championship, because everyone remains so close. You're constantly monitoring your mirrors, and every single corner exit. Big oversteer for Stenny out of the final corner will open him up to an attack from Kobe Jones.
I thought Kobe Jones got the wall there. Kobe Jones is under pressure from Brady Myers.
Oh, but he's going to stick it in there on Stenny in turn 1. Is this going to be enough for Jones to get the run he needs to get into the top 7? Well, the top 8, rather. He will be ahead of Stenny when they get to turn 3, but all over the grass there is Brady Myers, former champion of this series, and yes, that's a slowdown for Brady Myers, and mighty inconvenient because he's got the ERT trio on his tail here.
Still got the slowdown for Brady Myers. If you get that up on the racing line, you'll get sent, mate.
Yeah, you certainly will. Rick Kuznetsov in the 9.5 car splitting those 2 ERT machines of Gibbs and Capel. They've given up a ton of time to everyone ahead. Myers now the cork in the bottle, and he is defending like an animal. He does clear the slowdown just in time for the penultimate corner, but tell you what, the fire's going to be in the belly of everyone behind him here.
Absolutely ferocious. It's a bit of a bull ring, honestly, this layout of Watkins Glen without the boot.
And one of the closest that we have to the original layout of this circuit.
Oh, I was going to say Simmons Plains in upstate New York. The straights are longer.
Yeah, and the corners are much faster. Look at that to the inside there on live. Meanwhile, Lockhart Brownlee getting a little tap there from one of the Mustangs, Corey McFarlane. Avoiding action being taken as that's a problem for the 222 car of Jacob O'Reilly. McFarlane will sweep around the outside of him at turn 5. And flicking back up to the lead. It's been basically as close as this the entire time we've had our eyes off this top group. Coming up to 3 laps to go. Any one of these drivers on screen could come home P1, depending on how things go. It's another lob by Jake Burton up the inside. Another look, but it's not enough. He locks up on the way into turn 1, and that'll open him up to an attack from Madison. Well, Burton's going to try and hold him here through turn 2. Space has to be given. Ever so slight contact maybe between the TTR teammates. And here comes Emily Jones.
Great news for Jake Maloney, who with 3 laps to go suddenly has an almost 1 second lead. His teammates battling for second and third, going side by side behind him. I think this is the nicest race lead anyone's enjoyed all race long for Maloney. Who could be on the podium? Just don't know at this phase. Someone from this top 6.
This is going to be a massive fight, but Jake Maloney crucially free of it. 9/10 of a second ahead of Jake Burton now, as Burton was desperately trying to hold on to that second place. What does this mean for Hayden Veld and James Scott, the 2 non-TTR affiliated cars in this pack? They'll have to hope that there's some kind of slip up from any of them ahead of him, as we're going to check out what happened to O'Reilly. It was on the way into the inner loop, and it looks like Jordan Ross and the Black Synergy machine caught the rear end of him as they came on through, and ultimately race control might see that as a self-penalizing maneuver there. Ross definitely came off the worst of the 2.
Yeah, he had to go heaps to the inside to try to make the pass that he was affecting, and then in trying to dive down the inside, he's then hit the next car ahead rather than the car he was battling side by side with the position. And that happens sometimes when you're so tightly packed like this. It's tightly packed from second through to 6th. It's Maloney's pony that enjoys a nearly 1 second lead heading towards the closing stages of race 1 and 2.
And it's going to be white flag this time by. Question is, who's going to finish second? Is it Jake Burton, man who took his first win in V8SCOPS at this very circuit? Or will it be Madison Down, the one of the most successful drivers from the AusNZ sim racing community? Definitely statistically the most successful driver in V8 supercars, winning this championship 3 times as Rain Campbell runs wide out of turn 2. And we'll have to fall to the back of this pack with the Eclipse Mustangs just behind him. Through the inner loop, Madison Down, giving Jake Burton one heck of a hurry up. Oh, sorry, it's Jake giving Madison a hurry up. Madison's gotten by Jake Burton there. And that's going to be a big change for second on this last lap. Jones now is going to face the defense. Hayden Veld on the attack is side by side for second between Madison Down and Jake Burton. Jake has the inside for the final corner. There's contact. He's going to shuffle down wide and get the better run of the final corner. Jake Maloney wins ahead of these guys. And Jake Burton just gets it from Madison Down at the line.
Yeah, super close. Just escorted his teammate up towards some of the marbles on the final corner and just made sure that the inside line got the better drive when normally the outside would. That's a wreck before the line.
Oh my God. That's one of the Eclipse cars. Byron Phillips. All the way down to 32nd here. And smoking as he comes across the line. What happened to him? He was trying to move to cover Thomas Freeman. It's a very similar incident to, well, not quite, but somewhat similar incident to what we saw happen between Mark Poynton and David Kirby in Split 2. Oh boy. Well, end of the first race is upon us, and plenty of drama, plenty of close racing. Maloney is going to win by 1.5 seconds ahead of Burton and Down, who squabbled towards the line. Jones finishes a solid 4th place after starting 10th. Hayden Veld dropping to 5th after starting on the front row and leading the opening laps of the race. James Scott made up 2 spots to 6th. Matthew Bowler finishes where he started in 7th. Kobe Jones started outside the top 10 and gets 8th. Kurt Stenberg from 4th to 9th. The pit cycle didn't work out for him. And Brady Myers manages to nab a top 10 from 15th.
And super close in this next pack of cars, with Rick Kuznetsov just ahead of Rob Gibbs, Lachlan Capel, Tyson Broad, Joshua Horton, Dylan O'Shea, Corey McFarlane, Matthew Morris, Jacob O'Reilly, and William Sapstead.
In 21st, Rehan Leonage. It was a middling race, unfortunately, for the number 79. Got a very long pit stop out of that, and that stymied his run forward. Rattray White jumped the start, had to serve a drive-through, and settles for 22nd. Cody Deeth started from the very back of the field, up to 23rd. Solid run, taking a fresh set of tyres under the conclusion of the safety car, with Rain Campbell behind him. Preston, unfortunately, getting spun around once or twice in the race, settling for 25th ahead of Brian Borg, and Matthew Hansford Taylor with a black flag for the number 7. Thomas Freeman, Scott Gamble, and Jackson Dial round out your top 30. And then it's Jordan Ross, Byron Phillips, and Lockhart Brownlee, your final finishers on the lead lap. Ewan Baker 3 laps down, being involved in the incident with Adam Briggs and Scott Gamble there. Blacklock retiring from the race with engine trouble after jumping the start. Josh Anderson, technical issues. We won't see any more from him tonight, with that being the field from race 1 here. V8SCOPS at Watkins Glen. We're going to go on a very quick break here on SimSpeed TV, but when we come back, it will be time for race 2. You're watching SimSpeed TV. Reese Gardner and David Haynes here with you in the comms box and Jay Kennedy on production. If you've just joined us, well, you've missed quite a bit of drama and you're about to get some more. So a little bit of compensation there. V8SCOPS round 3 at Watkins Glen has seen so much drama, and there's yet more to come. For the second of our 28-lap races here tonight, well, we will go through the grid ever so briefly. It's basically the finishing order from race 1. That means that Jake Maloney is going to start on pole position, with Jake Burton joining him on the front row, Madison Down and Emily Jones on the second row. Hayden Veld and James Scott will be 5th and 6th there. As we move on back to Matthew Bowler in 7th, Kobe Jones alongside him. Stenberg will want to try and recover back to his initial race 1 qualifying position, with Brady Myers rounding out your top 10. It's Rick Kuznetsov and Robbie Gibbs that start in 11th and 12th. Capel and Broad on row 7, Horton and O'Shea on row 8, McFarlane and Morris on your 9th row. Our top 20 rounded out by O'Reilly and Sapstead. Leonards will want to break through, potentially try and get a top 10 with some strategy finagling, as well as Zach Rattray White. Cody Deeth, a good start on the cards for him from 23rd place, with Rain Campbell alongside to round out our top 24. Up in behind, 25th, Corey Preston, Borg, Hansford, Taylor, Freeman. They're all going to want more out of this, as well as Scott Gamble and Jackson Dial to round out our top 30. And Ross and Phillips, well, they did not end up making it too well to the finish of the race. Neither did Brownlee, Baker, Briggs, Blacklock, or Anderson. But we'll have 37 starters for this one. It looks like Anderson has gotten back into the server, David, and we are likely to see a bit of a comeback drive from our Aussie Racing Cars champion.
Hopefully his 4G modem has dried out, so him and Sam Blacklock are the final row of the grid for this race. What a sandwich of competition this 37 car field is. And there's a few other drivers, because this grid is the finishing order of the last race, that have a lot of work to do, like Ewan Baker and Adam Briggs, those teammates starting from the penultimate row of the grid after colliding in race 1.
Yeah, this is going to be quite the run that these guys are going to have in race 2. The revs will rise. The grid timer is over. Let's see if Jake Maloney will be able to hold off the might of his Trans-Tasman teammates into turn 1. We are away. Barely any rubber being laid down there. Super smooth start from the front of our field. Maloney and Burton will be side by side into turn 1. Burton going to try and sweep around the outside here, straighten up the car over the curb, and the traction is there for the number 80. Jake Burton, Perth man living in Melbourne, will lead the way through the S's here on lap 1. Madison down behind Jake Maloney for 2nd spot. Jones holding on to 4th. Hayden Veld keeping himself in the top 5, but there's some drama happening further back. They're going to go 3 wide. Car in the wall. It looks like it might be Jacob O'Reilly.
There was some contact climbing up through the S's.
Oh, God. Oh, it's gotten worse there just behind. O'Reilly having to take to the runoff area as Corey Preston enters the frame. There were some big dramas there up into the back straight. Sorry to cut you off there, David. Just all kicked off there.
Lap 1, and it's V8SCOPS, and we had some action coming up through the S's with a checkup, a little bit of contact, and you know, when there's someone who's 10 kilometers an hour off pace climbing up through the S's, it leads to a massive bottleneck in a narrow part of the racetrack, and then they all try to fan out, trying to carry their momentum and get positions into the inner loop, and that's what we saw play out. Could have been massive dramas. Here's a look down the inside, turn 1. Robbie Gibbs, I reckon, is trying to grab a spot.
Yeah, Robbie Gibbs on TTR Camaro there. That was Kurt Stenberg, who's trying to hold on to a position in the top 10. It hasn't worked out the best for him in the short term, but maybe once they get into a rhythm, he'll be able to find his way forward. Going to grab a couple of replays here. The first is going to be William Sapstead and Corey McFarlane making contact in the S's, and that's what triggered all of this palaver coming out, and then O'Reilly, you see on the right side of the screen, he was trying desperately to hold on to something. I think it was Leonage that made contact with him there to send him into the wall, and then, oh, it just got even worse. All but drop bear Camaro there with, I think, Jordan Ross on the inside. A little three-wide moment, and O'Reilly could do nothing to avoid that.
Kick a man while he's down twice into the Armco left-hand side as he pops a couple of hits. There's another move. All the way to the concrete wall on the inside.
Oh, Stenberg and Kuznetsov were the ones there, and they came together, and it's ended up involving Tyson Broad and Dylan O'Shea as well. Josh Horton in the magenta Camaro behind has got a front row seat to all of this action, along with Capel and McFarlane. Keep an eye here on Preston. This is what happened to him. One of the Eclipse Camaros turning him around there, sending him into the wall. Preston is nothing if not unlucky in a V8SCOPS sense.
Now McFarlane dropping back on the timing column as Jake Burton has a half-second lead, which is not bad at all. Otherwise, not too many changes in the top 8 positions. This is McFarlane. Oh, not the only one to take the short way.
Hawk behind too, did the same thing.
Got to keep an eye when they do cut the inner loop exactly where they blend. Some aggressive defense, if that's not an oxymoron, happening into turn 1 from Dylan O'Shea. I think it's worked for him.
Yeah, it looks like Horton was the one trying to get past him, and that opened up an opportunity for Stenberg to get back through into 14th. On board with James Scott in the battle for the top 6. Hayden Veld up ahead of him here. See how close they get to the wall on entry there. It's such a high-stakes part of the racetrack, and you don't let up until you're out of turn 5. It's a deceptively difficult sequence of corners, and it's all about keeping it stable over the curbs as well. Very easy for the car to buck sideways and end your race in a flash. Oh, Stenberg's just been turned by Horton. Oh, just saw that happening in the background there. And Capel gets a free position out of that. Sapstead is going to try and capitalize as well. Just bouncing off the wall. This is a very messy midfield that we're seeing at the moment. Josh Horton's been at the center of most of it.
Leonage 3 wide to the inside, backs out of it, which I think is the smartest thing I've seen anyone do all day, to be honest.
Yeah, if I had this kind of pack in front of me, I'd be hanging back. I'd be waiting to see what happens, because I feel like a big accident is on its way here. Stenberg, fortunately, has found some stability back. We're going to see a replay here of that's Adam Briggs trying to find his way through on one of the Eclipse cars, and oh God, oh dear, oh no. Oh, that is the number 7 car of Matthew Hansford-Taylor that the contact was made with, and a couple of cars have gotten some damage from that.
Baker
Briggs.
In a Briggs tangle for the second race running.
Yeah, and you know what? Worst news of all for Adam Briggs. He has been disqualified by iRacing for exceeding the incident limit. He's been involved in so many hits. That's the incident happening behind this one that we're getting the replay of. Stenberg turning down and Horton had his nose in. I'm amazed that these guys managed to make it to the other side of the corner.
I'm not sure how you get 25 incidents in 5 laps, but I guess it's that. You can get a 4X and then a couple of seconds later you get 4X and then carry on as you go, and there is a fair bit of carry on.
Oh, okay, we've gotten some word from race control. Apparently Briggs drove on to the boot section of the course, which is not used on this layout, and so iRacing gave him a DQ for that. That's far from ideal way to end your night.
If you drive more than about 150 meters backwards, you get sort of snap disqualified, and it may have decided that he was you know, driving backwards or something, because that's not part of the racing surface as it's scored, as where the timing loops are or anything for this layout on Sans Boot.
Kurt Stenberg jumping in first into pit lane. I think he's gotten tired of being involved in all the melee that's been happening in the midfield and would like
Everyone
some clear
knows.
air, please and thank you.
They all know how massive the undercut was in race 1. It's the same formula for race number 2, 28 laps, 51% fuel tank capacity, compulsory pit stop in the same width of window. So, you know, if a bit of an undercut works well, surely a big undercut can work well.
Yeah, the issue is how long can Stenberg make these tyres last? I mean, sure, he'll have the pace for a while, but if he pushes too hard, those tyres are going to drop off hard, and
On the side of the coin,
we'll be having some trouble there.
the track temperature is way hotter than race 1. It's 36 Celsius now and still climbing. Sure, that presents problems for the tyre life towards the end of a long stint, but surely it supercharges the effect of the undercut to get new cold tyres on. It's known for these Gen 3 cars that after 2 or 3 laps, you put so much heat into them that they're thermally beyond where their maximum grip is, and so we see, you know, a safety car, everyone drops their tyre temperature and suddenly they're quick again on exactly the same set of tyres. Where they live in race conditions is hotter than their optimal, but you can't back off to be in that optimal grip window, because then you'd be losing more time than you'd gain from it. So on a really hot track with really hot tyres, that's where a lot of the performance gain from the undercut comes from, the fact that new tyres aren't roasted to 150 Celsius or hotter or whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, that is a fair point. Amazing slow-mo there, just showing how tightly the drivers cut the inside at the entry to the chicane there. And we've definitely seen drivers hitting the wall there in the past. We're being told to keep an eye on Matt Morris here in this replay, the Neuro Power Mustang that qualified on pole position for Split 2, got Brian Borg for company. These guys were fighting all the way through Split 2's racing, and, well, I think that's going to be another twist in that tail. Good recovery from Morris, but, yeah, I don't know if he'll be too happy with Brian Borg for that one. Pit stops here, Josh Horton with a bit of a burnout there in pit lane. He's gotten another black flag, and that's far from ideal on pit entry. Hansford Taylor, for his contact with Preston, has been given a 5-second penalty, and in the midst of all of that, we had Gibbs, Capel, Brownlee, Blacklock, and Gamble come into the lane previously.
And we lost Josh Anderson after 2 laps, so presumably it started raining on his 4G modem, or maybe on the 4G tower, again for him, which is unfortunate to see. Josh Anderson going to get a couple more pit calls, and it's a difficult pit entry here because you've got to slow up on the apex. So normally, to not get absolutely rammed, you need to signal your intention to pit quite early. If you signal your intention to pit early, other drivers might elect to follow with you, particularly the way we've seen the strategy play.
Yeah, so Madison down once again, pitting around the lap 10, lap 11 mark like he did in race number 1. But Kurt Stenberg will likely have more of the undercut. And, excuse me, I don't think Down and Stenberg are going to necessarily be together here.
Okay.
Madison's already exited the lane as Stenberg crosses the line, but Stenberg wants to get ahead of that big, messy pack that he was a part of.
So Gibbs has just completed his first flying lap since his pit stop, a 1 minute 10.6, more than a second faster than Jake Burton leading the race. There's about, it looks like there's about a second worth of undercut here today in race 2. That's a fair amount, and Burton, Maloney, Jones, they're all in.
They don't want to lose that second.
Oh, who was that?
worth
It
of
looked like
time.
they were going to pit and then overshot it. O'Shea?
Maybe. Yeah, it was. So, O'Shea hoping to pit, but unfortunately, he
That's a
couldn't.
black flag. We called that already?
No, we did not. That is rather significant for Kuznetsov, because he's one of the guys that's trying to fight more towards the front in this one.
Let's look
That's
at the
going
blend.
to take him completely out of the running. We'll see that blend indeed.
Undercut is massive. They've got him. So
Oh, wow.
Gibbs and Burton have got most of that pack. They're only just behind Madison down.
Yeah,
It's all over Jake Burton now. Going to defend.
Maybe a tactical lift out there by Gibbs just before the braking zone. Doesn't want to make things too difficult. They obviously want to focus on catching down now. Burton going for the win that he unfortunately missed out on in race 1. Maybe racing a bit too hard for second place.
O'Shea figures out pit entry as he follows in Tyson Broad and Brady Myers, who's pitted from the lead of the race. William Sapstead will be scored a lap led again, I think, for 2 races in a row. But the undercut, you can see why so many have stopped significantly earlier and right towards the start of the window this time around. On a really hot track, there's an incredible amount of high undercut. So this is O'Shea. They go to pit in front of him, and he's like, oh, do I follow them? Oh, I'm a bit too hot to actually make that. And I don't want an unsafe pit entry penalty, even though they don't really enforce it here at Watkins Glen. They're only sticklers for it at a couple of tracks, and it's wildly inconsistent on iRacing, and you've just got to know.
Yeah,
I'm a foot taller when I stand on my soapbox.
I can see that. I'm looking up at you right now. In any case, Jordan Ross and Rain Campbell, 2 of the cars that have yet to come into the lane. Sapstead is leading the way. And I see, oh, there we go. That's the danger of pitting at Watkins Glen. Pit entry on the inside of the final corner. You've got a car behind you. They've got to be aware. And looked like that was almost overshooting the cones there for that car. But I don't see any black flags on the timing. Means Rehan Leonage is going to move through to the lead. Now, Leonage, one of the cars that I would have thought would have taken advantage of that undercut to try and move himself further up the field. He's been struggling tonight.
Yeah, the flip side of that, though, is that if anyone can make some positions sort of running long and then having a tyre offset, you know, Leonage can be very brave when passing and can be very, very rapid. So to just get into some clean air, I think Leonage stands a chance, but you're still seeing old and hot tyres doing, 11.6s in the fresh tyres. Jake Burton has only just taken the fastest lap of the race at 10.5. So this is, a minute lap, and the new tyres are more than a second faster. So you get a 2 or 3 lap undercut, and that's big.
Yeah, that's a significant gain. Like, a second here is probably, that's the same as like a 2 or 3 second gain at a track that would take about 1:50 to complete, maybe a little bit less than that, but regardless, the proportion of lap time that you gain by getting that undercut is massive at this circuit. And thus far, we haven't seen a safety car in this second race. So, he is hoping that we do get the battling that we anticipate and desire. Just goes to show how close they're pushing the wall at the Exeter turn 2 here. Oh, goodness me.
Byron Phillips, a black flag, and he's back on pit lane for a second time, so down in 32nd and tumbling. He's not going to be part of this battle. So Down and Burton have managed to put a little bit of time into the rest of them as they battle wildly for what's going to be sort of 3rd to 10th. Kurt Stenberg went for that big undercut and hasn't paid off for him. He's under so much pressure. 90% of it looks like he puts on himself.
Yeah, indeed. And it actually looks like he's a bit down from where he ought to be. He did get involved in a few prangs, few smashes, but down in 20th place, looking at effective maybe 18th or so, I would have thought he'd be higher up than that. Moves up to 17th thanks to the next couple of takers to pit lane. But yeah, I didn't quite expect Kurt Stenberg to be as far down. Still side by side here between McFarlane and Sapstead, and Corey grabs the wall at the top of turn 2. It's going to be a little bit of incremental damage to his car that may affect his pace in the long run. Sapstead on some of the freshest tyres in the field now will be looking to move further forward, Capel being his next target. That just goes to show.
Don't lift till you see Jesus, and well, he's risen, so gee, very brave.
Wheels rising off the ground there as he clobbered the guardrail. So, incident on lap 14 involving cars, so that's Matt Morris and the 470 of Thomas Freeman under review from race control. Their work continues diligently in the background, and Morris has been given a warning for his contact with Zach Rattray-White on lap 4. I mean, there's so much that goes on that we don't actually see all of these incidents happen in real time.
We've got the action of sort of a 2.5 minute lap happening every minute around here, so it feels closer to watching and calling sort of dirt speedway kind of stuff. That's the vibe of the frantic nature of the action, and just how often they come around, and yeah,
it's in sort of that no man's land, isn't it, between, you know, full long road course racing and dirt oval. It's not quite short enough to really have that quick fire action with clear sort of issues to talk about and then leave on for some other time. And it's a bit too short to really dissect incidents and be able to catch absolutely everything that happens. I think the car count is another aspect of that difference too. Dirt oval, you have in most races max of 8 or 10 cars before a feature. We have a bumper field of 37 cars that took the start here, and looks like 33 of them still running presently.
We're closer to Chili Bowl than we are VLN, I think, in the style of racing and the frantic nature of the action. Still 2 cars out front that haven't stopped. Leonage and Thomas Freeman running long, but Down and Burton will inherit those positions as Leonage pits right now. And it's only 1.5 seconds between Burton to Maloney. Maloney and Emily Jones stand a chance of still catching them out front for the race lead, and Robbie Gibbs is leading his next pack. Leonage pits.
So where is Rayan going to come out here? Came in from the lead of the race, falling down to 13th, then 15th. Cody Deeth, the next driver to come on through, as Leonage finally reaches the end of pit lane here. It could be a long, painful drive through Watkins Glen's pits, but Leonage comes out in the top 20, alongside, just ahead of Lachlan Capel. He'll have fresh tyres to the end.
So if Leonage is about to have 1.5 seconds per lap of advantage for the next 2 laps until the tyres, you know, reach fan-forced oven temperatures, it could be an exciting couple of laps, and knowing that Leonage started out at 21st, I think anything inside of the top 20 is the aim. So everyone else has sort of slipped into the same rhythm. Their tyres have reached that thermal peak. Leonage, with the brand new tyres, has got maybe 2 or 3 laps before they reach a similar state, and he's going to need to perhaps lick some stamps or digitally sign some emails or whatever you do these days for the next lap or 2 to make up some spots. Look at
You
the
can
pace
see-
difference through the corners. It's insane.
Oh my
Underneath
goodness. That is amazing there. But crucially, he has to wait until turn 1 to get it done here on Corey McFarlane. It is a huge pace difference that we see. And Leonage will send it right up the inside at turn 1. McFarlane has no response there. Corey's been out there for 8 laps now on those tyres, so they are past their best for sure.
Surprised himself with how much more grip he had. He's like, oh, I've gone from 5 car lengths back to being checked up through the final corner. Just traction, and perhaps that's even a slightly wounded car as well.
Yeah, don't forget McFarlane did clobber the wall out of turn 2, and that's a very high-speed section of the circuit, so he is likely carrying some damage, and that might be affecting his pace. We'll move our way up to Hayden Veld and James Scott. Hayden now has Matthew Bowler, his teammate at ERT for company, and Brady Myers has found his way to the back of this pack as well. Myers still in 10th spot, where he started this race. Keeping an eye on the tyre life here. It looks like Myers is going to get past Bowler there into turn 1. Give a bit of breathing room to Scott and Veld. Brady with, it looks like, the freshest tyres in this pack here. Only by a single lap. 8 laps on these tyres. Everyone around him has 9 laps on those tyres. James Scott leading and closing in on Robbie Gibbs, who was one of the first in this pack to pit 12 laps ago.
Leonage completes the first flying lap since the pit stop, and it's a PB, and it's a second a lap faster than the 2 cars in front, which are Kurt Stenberg and William Sapstead. So immediately he's all over Stenny. And when you think about what does 1 second per lap faster look like around this configuration of Watkins Glen, it means 0.3 of a second faster through the inner loop, 0.3 of a second faster through the outer loop.
And he's alongside the TTR Camaro of Kurt Stenberg and through at the final corner. Absolutely firing it through those turns. Brilliant pace on the fresh tyres. He'll be on the back of Sapstead in no time for 16th.
Yeah, drops off 1/10 of a second this lap compared to the last, but a lot of that is probably from having to get by Stenberg. So Leonage still in a position for the next lap or 2 to still have a pace advantage with that significant tyre offset. He's still waiting on just one driver who hasn't stopped, and it's Thomas Freeman.
Yeah, Freeman starting from the rear of the grid in race 1 with no qualifying time to his name. Made his way up to 28th, and now he's deciding to go for the massive strategy offset. Looks like we have a penalty that has come in here for the 117 of Brian Borg for that earlier contact that we saw with Matt Morris. So that's not going to be ideal for him. Thomas Freeman is still out there. He's just been ticking off these laps. I'm not entirely sure what his game plan is here. Everyone else is going to gain some massive time on him here, but maybe the clear air will help him somewhat.
Yeah, don't fully understand the gamble. And William Sapstead will be the next to buy a t-shirt from the I Got Overcut by Rehan Leonage club. Leonage goes to 16th, and will begin to run out of victims and begin to start overheating those tyres from here on out. Freeman surely can't go too much longer. This one's been green since the start, so fuel consumption should be up there, and I think Freeman will be about to run out of fuel, which will force him to pit. He won't make it all the way to lap 26, surely, in these conditions. And then when Madison Down inherits the lead, he'll have Jake Burton right with him. They've been consistently pulling a bit of time on net 3rd place Jake Maloney, so it's gone from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds to 2.2 seconds. Down and Burton are pulling away from everyone else.
So now comes the fight for the effective podium. James Scott still hasn't made much of an impression on Robbie Gibbs. But the 3-lap older tyres there on the ERT Mustang will certainly come into play in the next couple of laps. See behind them there, Cody Jones moving around in the mirrors of Matthew Bowler. Still a potential element here in the top 10. Gotta wonder if James Scott has anything up his sleeve. Remember last season, the last season for the Gen 2 cars, James Scott was practically unstoppable. But here in 2025, he hasn't quite been able to stay solidly at the front like he used to, as Thomas Freeman finally pits. The field is cleansed with 5 laps to go.
So there'll be a couple of big movers now. Zach Rattray-White is 12th, 10 positions gained. Leonage is 6 positions gained. He's had to make most of them on track with superior tyre grip, the way that he's run his strategy, rather than doing getting clean air. Sam Blacklock up 22nd, and started basically DFL in this one. Jordan Ross, 13 positions gained as well.
Yeah, some kind of recovery for Blacklock. Can't help but wonder what the night would have turned out like for him had he not jumped the start in race 1. All went wrong for him at the beginning of the racing action tonight, and well, he has recovered to 22nd, but there's going to be very slim pickings for him from there on out. Freeman, meanwhile, black flag to his name. It looks like he's been black flagged by race control. That is a drive-through for his contact with Matt Morris on lap 14, apparently.
Oh, Veld gets shuffled sideways as Brady Myers moves through. Veld had been trying to shape up James Scott, hadn't quite worked it out. Maybe Brady Myers has got a little impatient. Big send down the inside of turn 1, and there's some contact made.
Yeah, that's not ideal there for Hayden Veld, who had a super impressive qualifying performance, 2nd place on the grid for race 1. He'll now be struggling to hold on to this position here as his ERT teammate Matthew Bowler closes in. And Myers and Scott will skip away and continue piling the pressure on Robbie Gibbs. It's still been a really solid race for those 3 ERT cars of Gibbs, Veld and Bowler. Can't take anything away from them. It hasn't quite turned out in their favor, but they still have all 3 cars there in the top 10, and they'll be fighting as hard as they can all the way to the checkered flag. James Scott will have to start looking in his mirrors, though, because here comes Brady Myers.
And Ross will have to look in his mirrors. Kurt Stenberg. Or will he? Kurt Stenberg will have to look in his mirrors for Jordan Ross.
Having a look down at this area now.
They've just swapped. I think we had that sort of one car gets down the inside and then the over-under at turn 1 that we've seen happen a couple of times.
Yeah, Jordan Ross has much fresher tyres than Stenny does. 8 laps fresher to be exact, so he's going to be able to carry a bit more through the corners here. Stenny running a little deep at the inner loop, cuts across the grass.
Slow down, Stenny.
Yeah. Actually, does he have a slowdown there?
Yes, he does. He's got a furled black flag.
Yeah, I can see that. Doesn't show up on my timing, so wasn't quite clear on that. That will allow Ross through at turn 6. 1 extra place up for that embattled Synergy Mustang. 2 laps to go up the front, and there's the move from Kobe Jones. Get up into 9th spot. Puts Bowler back to 10th. Is this the start of a campaign to move forward from the number 25? He is on the same strategy as everyone around him. Maybe he's been looking after his tyres a little better, maybe saving a bit of fuel. And now he can unleash the car, use the maximum of it in the final couple of laps.
Plan, there's not too much racing left though. It's almost opened up a window through the carousel. Veld is once again looking at James Scott, thinking, how do I get past this guy? Brady Myers has cleared past the both of them, so he's successfully been able to execute some passes in this back half of the race.
Oh. Hayden Veld half trying to get back past James Scott there. White flag flies and we only have 4Ks worth of racing to go. Jones, that's way too deep. Way too deep. Clobbers James Scott off the racetrack. Hayden Veld might have suffered a bit of damage there too. Straight up firing it into turn one. And the reigning champion of the series is shuffled back to 9th spot. Kobe Jones back to 14th. That puts Cody Deeth up in lucky 13th. And all of these drivers here suddenly find themselves half in contention for a top 10. And Cody Deeth tries on Tyson Broad, but cleans him up. And that is an iRacing black flag for Cody Deeth. Incident limit has been reached for him. A dramatic final lap at the back end of the top 10. Yeah, that's going to result in a big time penalty for Cody Deeth. But Madison Down going to lead us home here. Trans-Tasman Racing cleaning things up here at Watkins Glen. Down and Burton fly in formation down the straight. And Jake Maloney brings it home in third. That is a podium lockout for Trans-Tasman in both races. Scott will recover there to 9th spot. Big damage there for, looks like Cody Deeth.
Yeah.
And, well,
the worst damage is yet to come when the last driver crosses the checkered flag and he gets rescored with the black flag that he carried across the finish and the checkered flag.
Here's a fun, useless stat for you. Down, Burton and Maloney, 1, 2, 3 in the second race. In race 1, they finished 3, 2, 1, respectively. So, a flip of the podium order from race 1 to race 2. I'm not too sure who the round winner is based on that.
Well, if two drivers have a first and a third, they'll have each outscored the driver with 2 second places, and it'd be a tie between each winning driver that also has a third. If they're bonus points of any kind that break the tie, it'd have to go back to qualifying to break the tie, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably would actually, and considering all of that, Jake Maloney would win that because Madison Down qualified 12th for race 1. So it looks like Maloney might be your round winner here.
Because that's the next, if the points are equal, that's the next competitive session that would split them and break the tie. Or some, it depends, some categories would go fastest lap first.
Yeah, very true. And which of them had the faster lap in that second race? It was Madison Down with a 1:10.6.
You want some random fluff here? So the F1, the tiebreaker is the holder of the greatest number of first places. Then if the number of first places is the same, the holder of the greatest number of second places. If the number of second places is the same, the holder of the greatest number of third places until a winner emerges. If this procedure fails to produce a result, the FIA will nominate the winner according to such criteria as it thinks fits.
Right. I hope one day we get circumstances like that so we can actually see what that procedure is going to be like. Well, regardless, we should get to our results here. It is Madison Down who takes the win in race 2. Jake Burton in second and Jake Maloney in third. Practically flawless time for Trans-Tasman Racing out front. Emily Jones getting 4th in both races tonight, with Robbie Gibbs rounding out your top 5. Myers finishes in 6th ahead of Matthew Bowler. He started 7th in both races and he finishes 7th in both races. That's consistency right there. Hayden Veld finishing in 8th. James Scott, late contact from Kobe Jones, sending him back to 9th, with Dylan O'Shea rounding out your top 10.
So then Zach Rattray White, 11th from Kobe Jones. Rayhan Leonage scored 13th in the end there. William Saps dead. Jordan Ross, Tyson Broad, Kurt Stenberg, Corey McFarlane, Rain Campbell, and Brian Borg.
In 21st, coming home from 36th, is Sam Blacklock, finally getting a race result tonight, with Lachlan Capel and Matt Morris behind. Corey Preston, 24th place, with Dial and Brownlee. Then Freeman, Cody Deeth sent back to 28th place, getting the incident limit black flag on the final lap, and Tyson Broad will at least have some relief from that. Scott Gamble and Rick Kuznetsov round out your top 30. They're the last finishers on the lead lap. Ewan Baker came home a lap down. Jake O'Reilly starting our retirement list here, including Hansford Taylor, Phillips, Horton, Briggs, and Anderson. Shame for all of them. Could certainly have been a much better race there. But it's time for driver interviews. And for our first interview, we should jump in with our incredibly successful driver who's added another win to his V8SCOPS points total tonight, Madison Down from Trans-Tasman Racing. Good run from you, Down. It was certainly all about the undercut, particularly in race 1.
Yeah, absolutely. We looked into the undercut and the amount of gain that we could see, and it was pretty substantial. This track's actually quite hard to pass, despite all the draft. We kind of refer to it as the super speedway of circuit racing, so very challenging to overtake with the train. But yeah, worked really well. I made life pretty hard for myself putting it 12th on the grid. I don't think I've ever been 12th and 800s off pole before, but yeah, awesomely competitive series.
Yeah, Watkins Glen gonna Watkins Glen. And speaking of which, you're one of the most experienced drivers in this field. You've been driving V8 since the old FG Falcon days. How does the Gen 3 car compare to the other generations when it comes to racing around Watkins Glen? Is it that much different at the end of the day?
This is probably the biggest change we've had in a long time. Like, the cars have gradually got faster and faster and faster, and then bang, we've ended up back very close to the Project Blueprint days of the FG01 that we had back in 2010 and moving forward. So actually looking back at lap times at Watkins Glen Cup to the FG01, it's actually very similar. We were doing in 2011-ish, we were doing 10.9s in qualifying, and that's not too different to what we saw tonight. We were a little bit quicker than that, but yeah, the car definitely drives a lot closer to a Blueprint car with the less aero for sure.
Well, your 34th V8SCOPS race win in this second race. Jay doing the hard work behind the scenes to get that stat out there. And it's a podium lockout for Trans-Tasman in both races tonight. So big successes here early on in the 2025 season. I'm sure you'll be hoping that momentum continues.
Yeah, look, we've had a really good start to 2025 in the SCOPS series. So we've had a lot of race wins, and we've been towards the pointy end. A massive struggle for us, particularly in this series, but also the Logitech series we're competing in as well, has been qualifying. So we really focused a lot on trying to qualify a bit better. Obviously, that didn't really go to plan for me, but some of the other guys had a really good night there. So we think we've made some inroads on setup and hopefully got our heads around the car a bit more. But same for everyone. I mean, it's a totally new challenge, totally different setup directions to where we had before. And yeah, to come away with actually a 1, 2, 3, 4 in both races was pretty extraordinary, and a credit to the work the team put in.
Yeah, indeed. Emily Jones putting on a great drive tonight as well. Well, from you, Madison, we'll leave it to you to thank who you need to thank for your 34th V8SCOPS race win.
Yeah, for me, quite a lot of supporters. Like, VRS is the big one. Been on the car now for many, many years, and we obviously use that VRS data analysis software to achieve these types of results in TTR. So massive thanks to them. Kirapak, Penrite, Super Cheap Auto, Tim Patterns and Race Design, and also Simrigs has jumped on our car this year as well. So massive shout out to them as well.
bringing home the bacon, as it were, in upstate New York. Madison down, number 77. Then we move up 3 digits to the number 80. Jake Burton joining us, stood by with David Haynes.
Yes, Jake Burton, 2 and 2 from races 1 and 2. Fair bit of looking at your teammates in the mirror, fair bit of looking at your teammates out front. And how collaborative was the strategy, Jake?
To be honest, not really collaborative at all. We wanted to beat each other, I think, and I think the risk of the safety of having so many cars up front is that you get really inclined to race each other pretty hard, and that was certainly the case in the first race. I think Maloney didn't want to count anyone in on restarts or anything like that. It was boys have at it, to say the least.
So what's the most challenging part of this layout of Watkins Glen? In theory, it's only sort of 7 or 8 corners, but each of them unique, and this is, of course, never an easy car to drive.
For me, especially in the Gen 3 car, it's all about drive. So, we got some fast corners here and some big braking zones, but really the long straights are the biggest difference. So, how good you can get the power down off turn 1 and up the hill, and how long you can stay in the gas on the way up the hill without the rear disconnecting. And then same goes for off the carousel in the last couple of corners. It's really a drive track for me. And this car is, I think, far less drivey than the previous, generation car. So I think for me, getting that is really important. And it's really easy in a race to get flustered behind another car. I kind of had it behind Madison in that second race. You sort of just, you're trying to carry the same entry speed and you're trying to generate a run. And I just, you get too cocky with it and you slide the rear and cook the rear tire, and then it just sort of compounds and gets worse and worse. So yeah, that was probably the biggest challenge, and one of the real challenges of chasing someone as fast as Mads as well.
And as far as racecraft, the over-under at turn 1, good or nah?
I honestly think depends who you're racing. I think Maloney made it work on me really well in the first race, but to be honest, that was only because I sort of missed the apex and drove it in too hot. So I think if you're racing, really elite guys like Maloney and Madison and, people like Jared and Brody and those sort of guys as well, it's nowhere near as powerful. But if you bowl on in there like I did and, missed the apex, it's a hell of a lot easier.
Well, frantic, high-speed stuff at high average speeds, and a great result for you and a great result for the team. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope to see more and more guys coming to race V8SCOPS. The racing was absolutely epic tonight, has been all season. So, I'd really love to see guys like Jared and Brody and Ethan and, Damon and those kind of guys coming to rock up and give us a show.
Beauty. We'll see you at the next one.
See them.
Jake Burton there, getting second place in both races. The winner of race 1 and rounding out the podium in race 3 was the TTR Mustang of Jake Maloney. He's with us now. Congratulations, Jake. Honestly, qualifying was really tough, it looked like, for drivers in Group 2. Those top 2 times from the first group stood very strong indeed.
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, I didn't even realize it was split qual until the session started. I didn't realize I was in the first split. I probably should have pre-qualified a bit better thinking about that, but in the end it actually worked out pretty well. I think that first group was quite fast, and Vildy and myself, held in quite strong.
Well, you managed to outsmart the ERT cars and get yourself to the front after Mr. Blacklock's unfortunate jump start and subsequent penalty. And race 1 from there went about as well as you could ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a very good strategy race from the team for Burton and I to start at the front, and Matt and Emily to jump up and jump a lot of our competitors. And it ended up being a big battle between Burton and I, and we didn't really give each other anything. It was all on there.
And third place in race 2, I think, just generally a points total befitting of a driver competing up the top of those championship standings. It's been a great start to the season for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, to pick up a couple of wins and I think be on the podium most races or top 5 is, hopefully we can keep doing that throughout the season and put put a good championship together.
Absolutely. Well, some different sponsors on your car compared to Madison and Jake. So if there's anyone you want to thank for your results tonight, now is the time.
Yeah, just big thanks to everyone on the team and Simrigs for coming on board this year. It's been good to get a few pretty good results so far this season and pick up a few wins for them.
Yeah, got to say the Simrigs logo definitely suits those TT Art liveries. Thanks very much for joining us, Mr. Maloney. We'll see you at Sebring for the next round of Scops.
Thanks, guys.
As Jake Maloney and our podium interviews complete, David, we move to Sebring, as I mentioned, for the next round of the championship. It's going to start with the support series on Saturday night and then Scops on Sunday. Always love Sebring. It's a track that suits these cars very well.
Bump, 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 bump is what you can expect, no doubt. And I think, based on what we've heard from this layout of Watkins Glen, that there's a couple more overtaking opportunities at Sebring. You're looking at one of them right there, the braking zone at turn 7, but also Sunset Bend, turn 1. Great historic track. As historic, or maybe even more, than Watkins Glen. Two tracks that have also both decided the Formula One World Championship.
Yes, indeed. Sebring all the way back in 1959, I believe. So, yeah, a lot of history at both of these North American tracks in rounds 3 and 4 of V8SCOPS. Mark the dates in your calendar there. Weekend of May the 18th is when we're going to bring you the action here on SimSpeed TV. Whether you've come to us from YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Kick, we thank you for your viewership and hope to see you again next time. I'm Reese Gardner. David Haynes alongside me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. Bye for now.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but is it enough? It's a drag race to the finish. Culver goes from 3rd to 1st in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iRacing.com/special-events.